The world became a living hell, elite hunters fleeing, and the MC, he was nothing but trash, trampled and humiliated, without an ounce of physical strength, labeled a failure. But the apocalypse was his salvation. The system chose him, awakening forbidden magic. His eyes see everything. He doesn't fight with swords, but he uses brutal saws, walls of spikes, unbreakable chains, and lightning tearing through the sky. Even the bosses bow down. His level rises non-stop, stealing god-tier items. The most overpowered master was born. The massacre is about to begin. Suddenly, a dungeon break happens, and a massive red energy takes over everything. With that, the gates between worlds shatter, and normal life turns into a dungeon. Quickly, Tsukasa activates his trap scan, wrapping his body in a blue aura. Since the world turned into a dungeon, our MC believes he can find every single trap around, his eyes shining with excitement. The kid shouts that he can see all of them. Soon enough, the young guy sees a holographic map of the city, spotting the traps in the area. Sighing with relief, he celebrates that his power is real, and he can actually be a hunter. Usually, hidden traps exist just to mess with anyone exploring the dungeons. But with his S-rank power, our boy knows the exact location of every single one. And knowing exactly where the dangers are, the game totally flips in his favor. Putting on a super serious face, the main guy gets ready to take action. Just then, he gets a jump scare seeing a monster attacking people on the street. Immediately, he grabs his spear that was just lying on the ground, showing off his confidence. Our MC says his master-level power can handle the beast. Meanwhile, civilians run in pure panic, screaming that the city is a goner. But right in the middle of all that chaos, a little boy trips and falls flat on the ground, crying his eyes out in terror. Little Takeru yells for his mom, who looks back in absolute shock. Then, a giant creature stops right in front of the helpless kid. Flashing a wicked smile, the monster raises its sword to strike Takeru. But suddenly, a slash of purple energy appears and blocks the beast's attack. Stepping right in front of Takaru, the young guy parries the monster's sword with his spear. Staring the monster down, our hero yells for the creature to bring it on. Smirking, Tsukasa warns that the trap to take the enemy down is already set. Quickly, the kid dodges a super heavy strike from the creature that literally cuts through the wind. Jumping backward, the young guy puts a good amount of distance between him and the bizarre beast. Right after he lands and slams his spear into the ground, triggering something on the spot. Looking confused, the giant monster stares at the boy and lets out a clueless laugh. Giving a little nod, our MC taunts it, making the creature look down at its own feet. Flashing a victorious smile, the young guy reveals that the lethal trap is right there. Immediately, a bright blue magic circle appears right under the big monster's feet. With that, the trap triggers and blasts, unleashing a super intense blue light. Swallowing the creature entirely, the energy pulses with some serious destructive power. Then, the trap turns out to be a giant iron pendulum that crushes any prey. Hitting dead center, the pendulum obliterates the beast, and our main guy celebrates the win. Smirking, he explains that his combat style is all about taking down monsters using traps. Seeing the danger gone, Takeru and his mom hug each other, crying tears of relief. Watching that wholesome scene, Tsukasa gives a happy smile, glad they're safe. But he quickly gets serious, remembering that a monster like that normally requires a whole squad. Breaking a cold sweat, the kid starts to realize the massive scale of the problem that just kicked off. Looking at the mother and son shaking with fear, the young guy's worry only grows. Tensing up, our hero watches the family run away while feeling even more danger approaching. Right after several armored monsters show up, and he knows he needs to act fast. Springing into action, the kid announces he's going to use another skill and raises his hand. Shouting out his technique, the MC lifts his hand, and a massive blue energy bursts forth. With that, the young guy fires several spheres of blue energy right at the drooling enemies, triggering a large-scale attack. Tsukasa stands right in the middle of all the chaos. Caught totally off guard, the beasts end up surrounded by some weird magic circles. Burning through his mana, the hero reveals he can force-activate traps from a distance. Suddenly, Rightfall is triggered, and a shower of boulders completely flattens the enemies. After defeating the beasts, the system hits him with a notification that he leveled up from level 1 to 2. And right after, an alert shows that his trap skills just got even better. Super hyped, the kid realizes his S-rank job is going to make him an awesome hunter. Watching everything with his jaw dropped, a civilian asks if the young guy was the one who did all that. Running up to our hero, a desperate guy begs for help to find a safe spot as soon as possible. Explaining that he isn't an official hunter, the MC says they need to find a safe zone right now. And a safe zone is basically a dungeon space that has 0 traps and 0 monsters. But finding one of those is tough, and usually takes a top-tier team of experts. Panicking, the civilian says they're out of time, but Tsukasa quickly calms everyone down. Crouching down slightly, the boy touches the ground and says that for him, this is super easy now. Then, the main guy activates his scan, sending a blue wave rippling across the ground. Using his power, the young guy lets them know he's going to search the map until he finds a clear spot. His eyes glowing blue, the kid smiles and announces he finally found the perfect place. Turning to the crowd, he tells them the safe zone is at the park just up ahead. And flashing a huge grin, our hero asks everyone to put their trust in his magical power. Agreeing on the spot, the group follows the kid, knowing he's their absolute best shot. Arriving at the destination, one of the civilians shouts happily that they made it into the promised park. Crying tears of relief, the crowd celebrates when they notice there are literally 0 monsters around. Super grateful, the mom smiles at the MC, telling him he was an absolute angel. But suddenly, right as the young guy looks back, sensing a really weird energy in the wind. Sprinting super fast through the streets, our hero cracks a very focused smile, getting hyped up. He says he can see everything and that he now has the ultimate eyes. Thinking on his feet, he figures that places packed with traps must be hiding something. And in a spot guarded by that many traps, the kid is totally sure there's something valuable. Focusing his blue vision on a blind spot, he guesses there might be some rare loot over there. Taking off like a lightning bolt, the main guy gets super hyped about the possibility. Keeping an intense look in his eyes, he thinks that snagging that rare item could totally change his life. Suddenly, a really mocking voice sneers, asking what kind of loser was running around there. Slamming on the brakes, Sakasa turns his head toward that annoying voice. And to the kid's bad luck, the villain calls him a fake S-rank in a totally mocking tone. Catching a huge jump scare, the kid's eyes go wide as he recognizes the face of that piece of trash. Flashing a rotten smile, the guy is revealed to be Asanuma, an old bully. Skiing in anger, the main guy has no idea what his old rival is doing there. Glaring at him, the young guy asks if he also got lost because of all the chaos. Laughing it off, Asanuma says the little nerd must have run from the monsters and ended up there too. In tapping his weapon on the ground, the psycho says there are no monsters around, but something else entirely. Making a crazy face, the villain yells that there are only dangerous people like him out here. Seeing the rival's insane face reflected in his own eyes, our hero is totally shocked. Jumping without warning, Asanuma tries to slice our hero, who just manages to block it in time. Freaking out a bit, the MC warns him that the world is ending and this is no time for petty grudges. Laughing at the warning, the villain mocks him, saying he doesn't care since the world went down the drain anyway. Staring down our hero, he declares that it's survival of the fittest now, and he can eliminate anyone he hates. Flashing a lunatic smile, the guy decides to test if taking people out also gives XP and levels. Sweating bullets, Tsukasa notices the guy has completely lost his mind and spots his quick movements. Analyzing his footwork, the young guy figures out that Asanuma is dodging the local traps. Acting super ironic, the madman makes fun of the kid and decides to show the secret behind his moves. Then, he pulls out a walkie-talkie, revealing he's been dodging danger thanks to that radio. Quickly, the MC notices that it's actually a low-precision track finder. Thinking out loud, the kid remembers that radio is super expensive and has no clue how the guy bought one. With a sadistic smile, the villain admits he used the apocalypse as a chance to loot a store. Throwing his arms wide, the scumbag yells that with this radio, he'll dodge every single trap. Deciding to act fast, the MC focuses on catching him off guard with a force activation. Targeting an attack trap right above Asanuma's head, the young guy sets it off. Shouting out his trap activation, a massive blue magic circle pops up in the air. Suddenly, a bunch of steel blades drop from the sky, catching Asanuma completely by surprise. Getting hit by the brutal steel barrage, the villain screams in pain from the rain of iron. Noticing his attack was a success, the kid immediately gets ready for his next move. Smiling with a ton of relief, Tsukasa celebrates in his head, thinking he took him out. But something super unexpected happens, and our main guy is the one caught completely off guard. Laughing in a sinister way, the rival reveals that the attack didn't even leave a scratch. Mocking that pathetic trap, the villain's body glows with a purple light. Staring down the kid, Asanuma reminds him that he had mentioned his activation skill earlier. Noticing a spark on his rival's back, Tsukasa deduces it's an invisible guard. Being a rare defensive item, that barrier can block fatal hits multiple times. Laughing right in his face, Asanuma asks if the young guy forgot what he just said. Showing off a glowing device, he brags again about raiding the guild store. Flexing his 2 stolen items, the lunatic boasts that he basically has S-rank power now. Charging forward in a rage, the scumbag warns him that the level gap between them is massive. Then, before he can even react, the kid takes a brutal punch straight to the gut. Collapsing to the ground, coughing up a storm. Tsukasa groans in pain while being stared down, treating the kid like total trash. The villain demands an explanation for that sneak attack. With a sadistic look, the big guy preps another hit while bringing up the past. Stepping on the fallen hero, Asanuma says he loves crushing his prey's stomachs just to humiliate them. Raising his weapon for the finish, he tells the association scum to watch closely. Smiling like a total psycho, the bully rants that his grand legend starts right there. But in the blink of an eye, our main guy counters the brutal assault. Knocking the enemy's weapon away, Tsukasa pushes the attacker back with a solid double kick. Raging with hate, the rival complains about the garbage missions he used to get as a D rank. Yelling in fury, he claims he was meant to be the best hunter in high-level dungeons. Sweating cold, Tsukasa realizes he needs to change tactics or he's going to get beaten to a pulp. Focusing all his blue mana into his hands, the Trap Master tries to fight back. Firing off another trap activation, he tries to catch Asanuma in his trick, but the villain just laughs it off, brushing off the attacks like they're total jokes. Dancing around the battlefield, he dodges a spiked ball with absolute ease. Overflowing with confidence, Asanuma swears he'll become invincible by looting dungeons. Refusing to give up, our main guy triggers several traps back to back. Promising revenge, the madman guarantees he'll wipe out everyone who humiliated him at the guild. Gritting his teeth in frustration, our MC blames the trap finder for his failing attacks. Panting from exhaustion, Tsukasa realizes that landing just one hit won't change a thing. Backed completely into a corner, the kid starts panicking, remembering that invisible guard. Suddenly, a blue stasis screen pops up in his vision with a soft beep. Writing the alert, the system rewards his increased proficiency with a brand new skill. Figuring out why, he realizes he leveled up the skill by spamming it in the heat of battle. Checking out his awesome new move, our hero discovers trap creation right there. His eyes going wide at the magic's power, the kid finally sees a solid chance to win. Cutting his thoughts short, the enemy calls him trash and charges in with his purple glowing weapon. Weirded out by our main guy's stance, the villain mocks his desperate vibe. Forming a slight smirk, the kid channels all his lethal new magic right into his hands. Shooting a furious and focused glare, Tsukasa promises to pay the old bully back. Channeling that brutal power, the Trap Master's hand erupts with crazy energy. Shouting out his trap creation, the young guy unleashes a devastating counterattack. Blasting that purple aura into the ground, our hero literally spawns a trap out of thin air. Stunned by the trick, Asanuma has no idea where that attack even came from. Freaking out over his item failing, he gets completely blindsided by a log attack. Sent flying by a massive flying log, the big guy spits out dust and screams in pain. Admiring the heavy damage dealt, the kid smiles in relief, confirming the skill actually works. Buzzing with excitement, our hero realizes how incredibly broken it is to conjure hazards freely. Overflowing with pure confidence, Tsukasa decides to push the skill one more time. Totally in denial, the bully screams, refusing to believe the kid can just summon traps. Looking at the villain with pity, Tsukasa introduces himself as a true S-rank class. Giving a faint, confident smile, he lets him know that limits just don't apply here. Lighting up his hand with purple energy, the kid calls upon his trap creation on the ground. Spooking the invader again, a magic circle appears wrapping right around the villain's feet, but the big scary trap just bonks the rival on the head with a simple metal basin. Spitting mad on the floor, Asanuma freezes, staring at the stupid metal bowl. Clicking his tongue in disappointment, our main guy notices the limits of his current level. Realizing his mana pool is running low, he gives up on large-scale deadly magic. Busting out laughing at the failed spell, the villain shows zero fear right now. Sighing calmly, the young guy points out that the basin was just there to distract his eyes. Dropping his guard in confusion, the psycho finally focuses his eyes down on his own hands. Right after he freaks out, noticing a massive red circle right under his arm. Flexing absolute control, Tsukasa reveals that the mechanism was already set there. His eyes bulging with fear, the big guy realizes he took the bait flawlessly. Boiling in a puddle of lethal energy, the villain freezes up with zero time to escape. Popping straight out of the rock, a speed saw starts spinning to shred its prey. Slicing right through the invisible guard, the motorized saw tears into the psycho, making him scream. Launching the rival's body super far, the colossal impact completely rattles his stolen defenses. Flying like a total ragdoll, the big guy gets swallowed up by the extreme beatdown. Bouncing across the dark asphalt, he groans, desperately trying to catch his breath. But as he rolls over on the ground, the floor lights up, triggering another terrifying circle. Shooting up in split seconds, a thick wall of needles completely crushes the bully. Howling in absolute agony, he feels those massive punctures all over. Noticing another deadly glow sparking up right next to him, the lunatic tries to limp away. Feeling his shield failing, the criminal knows his invisible guard is at its absolute limit. Shaking in pure panic, Asuna realizes he's completely cornered in a kill room. Running around like a headless chicken, he hits the brakes when he spots another mine ready to blow. Freezing up completely, the scumbag gets blasted by an intense lightning bolt straight from the sky. Frying in the high-voltage magic, Asanuma's muscles spasm uncontrollably. Dropping to the ground totally toasted and limp, the coward throws in the towel, fearing it's game over for good. Kneeling and begging for mercy, his doom blinks again with another red circle. Firing dark hooks, the mechanism pops up promising an execution right on the spot. Locking down its wounded prey, the unbreakable chain wraps Asanuma up, sealing the hunt. While the guy cries in terror over the hidden traps, our young MC just starts questioning him. Giving off a dark and imposing aura, Tsukasa explains his terrifying combo setup. Being a perfect death trap, the system easily wrecks high-durability enemies. Keeping his target locked in that red magic, the master announces the final act. Staring up at the dark sky in pure dread, the lunatic looks right down the barrel of a giant hunting ballista. Crying like a spoiled brat, he totally humiliates himself, begging not to be taken out. Firing with absolutely zero mercy, the brutal stake flies down to annihilate him. Watching the shot rip through the wind, Asanuma knows his fragile shield is going to break. Accepting his harsh fate, the human garbage is swallowed whole by the red explosion. Flying backward from the massive impact, Asanuma sees the ballista vanish into thin air. Crashing to the ground, the arrow actually misses, but the invisible guard generator is smashed to bits. Seeing his rival knocked out cold and foaming at the mouth, the young guy figures he doesn't need to finish him off. Noticing the broken shield, the MC thinks it makes total sense after the villain took so many heavy hits. Stepping right on the trap finder, Tsukasa crushes the item that Lunatic was misusing. Glaring at the defeated scumbag, he points out that the jerk completely ignored the area's lethal combo. Right agitation, let's say. The kid turns around and notices a wall cracking and glowing with a super bright light. Focusing his eyes on the glow, the young guy finally gets why there were so many traps in the perimeter. Walking up to the glowing crack, Tsukasa gets hyped that he finally found his objective. Peeking through the gap, the kid spots something shiny and yells out in pure excitement. Finding a hidden S-rank treasure chest, our hero stumbles onto an ultra-rare item, being super rare secrets hidden in the dungeons. These artifacts are incredibly hard to get. Carrying priceless value, these chests can brutally boost someone's power level. Opening the ancient artifact, a strong blue light bursts out, revealing a floating orb inside. Touching the divine object, the main guy feels his mana pulse skyrocket instantly. Reading the multiple system screens, he confirms the massive buff to his magic power. Remembering his biggest weakness, the kid used to struggle without enough mana to cast lethal spells. But wielding the Archmage's orb, his magic jumps from level 7 all the way to 27. Trusting in this crazy new raw power, the guy cracks his knuckles to test out what he can do. Right after, a giant monstrous bug comes crawling down the totally wrecked street. Flashing bright blue eyes, the swarm of beasts gets ready to attack the neighborhood. Staring at those ugly creatures, Tsukasa sees the absolute perfect guinea pigs for his test. Sticking out his free hand, the kid calls upon the lethal trap creation once again. Instantly, a bunch of floating cannons materialize right around the monsters. Firing hellfire, the creatures are completely swallowed by devastating flames. Satisfied with the monster barbecue he just cooked up, he credits the instant wipeout to the Archmage's orb. But, noticing some presences behind the blazing fire, the young guy turns around pretty curious. Two guys pop out of the alley, standing in complete shock at the totally charred monsters. Checking out the crazy damage, the duo figures there has to be some hidden S-rank hunter in the area. Spotting their guild squad uniforms, our MC guesses this must be an evacuation op. A third soldier runs up, announcing the rescue is over and ordering everyone to head to the stadium. Yelling nervously, the guy reveals that the main force just found the area is dangerous. Boss. Eavesdropping on their secret chat, our hero realizes the Alpha Beast is over at the stadium. Knowing it's the strongest beast in the local dungeon, taking the boss down is the absolute priority. Remembering the vital rules, defeating the leader wipes out the monsters and spawns a safe zone. Watching the squad run off, he's totally sure the same rule applies to this city. Leading the heavy march, the captain orders the squad to head straight for the stadium. Rocking an eager smile, Tsukasa decides he absolutely can't miss this event and tails right behind them. Arriving at of the huge stadium, dozens of hunters were already locked in a brutal fight, charging in brutally. An armored monster shows off all its violent ferocity. Fighting incredibly bravely, a soldier strikes the beast using a flaming sword. Yelling from the front lines, the leader demands focus, telling them to ignore those small fries. Looking totally surprised, the young rookie questions calling those colossal monsters small fries. Trembling with fear, the rookie tries to imagine just how strong the true boss of the area must be. Holding their shield formation, the platoon stands firm, waiting for the big threat to arrive. Suddenly, an unbelievably massive shadow covers the entire stadium all at once. Ripping its jaws wide open, the beast charges up an immense ball of red energy. Tearing through the gray clouds, the monster reveals its terrifying, brutal dragon form. Firing a massive deadly beam, the captain screams for his squad to fall back fast, getting caught dead center in the huge explosion. One of the soldiers screams in pure agony, terrifying the rest of the squad. The group realizes the absurd damage of that heat ray. Screaming in desperation, the leader orders a full retreat while the arena slowly crumbles apart. Right after a colossal scaly wing cuts through the sky, confirming the absolute worst-case scenario. Pointing to the emergency exit, a panicked hunter yells for everyone to speed up, but the dragon's tail smashes the walls, launching deadly debris all over the place. Getting hit by chunks of concrete, a duo groans in pain, ending up buried in the rubble. Crying in despair, the rookie crawls over to her veteran, calling out his name. Creeping forward slowly, the colossal reptile casts its giant shadow over the two of them. Flashing bright scarlet eyes, the beast stares down its prey with pure evil. Accepting her imminent end, the girl knows the whole squad is going to be turned to ashes soon. Flexing its title as king, the dragon lets out an imposing roar surrounded by hellish flames. Landing right in the minefield, Tsukasa stares down the freak of nature, sizing it up. Pulling his weapon without a second thought, the kid charges in, yelling for the big lizard not to run away. Radiating huge confidence, our hero swears he'll set up a literal bed of nails for the creature. Sprinting straight at the flaming boss, the kid is 100% focused on the takedown. Understanding the gravity of the boss, the trapmaster knows that beating it will wipe the area clean. Dead set on wiping out the threat, our main guy puts full faith in his rare class. Facing the furious dragon head-on, our fearless hero doesn't back down a single inch. Dragging the wounded off the front lines, a soldier tries to save his fallen buddies. Positioning the heavy artillery, the captain demands a focused strike to finish it off. Firing dozens of magic arrows, the platoon hits the target in perfect unison, hitting its scaly armor dead on. The barrage of attacks kicks up a massive cloud of dust, showing a glimmer of hope. The artillery leader cheers, thinking they dealt a ton of damage. But the dragon emerges from the smoke, with its flesh regenerating crazy fast. Frowning in awe, our MC notices the absolutely bizarre level of healing it has. Stating the obvious, he realizes the beast is only going down with a literal one-shot insta-kill. Comparing it to the dead villain's invisible shield, this passive healing is way worse to deal with. But keeping a cool head, the kid bets it all on a highly lethal master plan. Determined to trigger a special trick from a distance, he goes ahead and taunts the giant lizard. But out of nowhere, the girl stands up and challenges the lizard, yelling at it to look at her. Taking on the role of suicide bait, she prays the guild can finish off the cowardly beast. Crushing her hopes, the beast charges another beam in its mouth, catching her totally by surprise. Closing her eyes against the blinding heat, the girl just waits for her lethal judgment. Suddenly, Tsukasa appears sprawled on the asphalt, panting heavily right next to her. Super confused, the rookie gets her vision back, realizing she was saved in the arms of a hero. Standing on a massive glowing circle, she yells out in panic, asking where they are. Sighing in exhaustion, the guy tells her he triggered a magic teleport right before disaster struck. Explaining the skill, he mentions using dangerous distortion to his own advantage. Being a super tricky technique, mastering it perfectly lets you save allies in the blink of an eye. Questioning her rushed savior, the girl is quickly set back down on her feet. Leaving her in a safe spot, he begs her to use the guild's emergency radio immediately. Oozing determination, the kid says he's going to grab the huge flaming boss's attention. Dumbfounded by his crazy idea, she reminds him how hard it is to lure the beast away from the houses. Cutting her lecture short, the young guy reminds her that with no civilians left on the streets, the city is basically their boxing ring. Watching the kid run off and vanish, the rookie gulps down that absolutely absurd level of boldness. Heading back to the main slaughterhouse, the dragon punishes the squad insanely violently. Roaring at the gray skies, the armored beast shows off all its absolute dominance and cruelty. Trying to manage the wounded, a hunter drags his crying partner across the ground. Spitting in frustration, the leader throws in the towel, blaming the crazy strong regen on that boss. Suddenly, a metal basin smacks the mighty dragon right on the head, letting out a loud bonk. Describing the basin drop, the system says the metal falls, completely humiliating the prey. Flashing a fierce look, the kid demands the beast's attention, questioning its actual strength. Thumping his own chest, our hero challenges the area's king to face a real hunter. Getting furious at the disrespect, the dragon turns its head, prepping a brutal attack right there. Sweating bullets at the scene, a soldier yells, thinking the young guy is crazy for provoking the boss. Immediately, the dragon spits an overwhelming blast of energy right at him, and using its colossal power, the heat ray destroys absolutely everything in its path. Watching the kid leap through the air, the squad can't believe such insane agility. But one of the soldiers disagrees, pointing out a bizarre detail in that high-speed escape. Pointing up at the sky, he shows the magic trampoline that gave our MC his boost. Wisely using a non-lethal defense, Tsukasa dodged the fire with rising springs. Being able to spam the spell, our hero gains total aerial mobility to use in battle. Invoking the skill again, the kid calls upon track creation right in midair. Quickly, another purple trampoline materializes, creating a path through the dark sky. Landing perfectly on the platform created right above the beast, the young guy focuses on his plan. Planting his feet firmly in the air, Tsukasa stares the giant lizard down from super close. Grabbing the creature's tough hide, he invites the big king of the area for a little joyride. Hooking 2 magic ropes onto the dragon, the hero warns that he's taking it on a one-way trip to its doom. Flying at top speed, the main guy drags the lethal beast straight into pure destruction. Bouncing through the flaming ruins, the young guy smiles while being chased by the flying beast. Just then, the guild's radio blares a loud alert that the monster has broken out of the stadium. Right after, another soldier updates them on its destructive path, crushing the whole neighborhood. Sweating bullets, the Ricky Hunter notices the beast flying straight toward the electrical substation. Watching that crazy aerial rodeo, the captain admits he's completely lost control of the situation. Firing heat beams all along the way, the lizard barely misses the bouncing kid. Lunging incredibly fast, the animal charges, trying to swallow its agile prey whole. Getting a massive jump scare with those teeth grazing him, Tsukasa barely manages to dodge in one piece. Triggering his magic again, he sets a portal right in front of the beast's face. Swallowed face first into the glowing circle, the massive beast gets sucked right into the teleport. Landing calmly on the solid ground, the MC watches the heavy creature get transported away. Buzzing with pure joy, the kid confirms his bold plan worked perfectly. Popping out of the portal suddenly, the monster drops straight into the power substation. Smiling proudly at his flawless trap, the young guy preps his grand mechanism. Reaching out his arm, Tsukasa announces that the lethal main course is about to be served. Slapping his palms on the ground, the kid yells, activating a gigantic structure all around it. With magic circles popping up everywhere, the lizard gets trapped and totally confused. Sprouting from the floating seals, massive chains fly out to lock down the huge invader. Forcing the unbreakable chains, the magic seals away the fast boss's heavy resistance. Seeing his target tied up and tamed, the MC focuses a ton of energy into his right hand. Triggering the giant iron axe, the trap swings down, tearing right into the beast. Summoning violent chainsaws from the portals, the sound of grinding metal echoes everywhere. Firing up the great speed saw, the machine shreds through scales, severely injuring the beast. Explaining his lethal combo, the hero admits that normal monsters would have already turned to dust by now. But the dragon's miracle healing requires absolute damage, and our MC totally saw that coming. Jumping onto its aching back, the kid promises to serve up way worse dishes. Glowing with a super intense aura, the main guy slams down his trap creation. Dropping a brutal rockfall, stone meteors completely crush the corn prey. Joining forces with the rocky assault, massive cannons spawn, blasting the wounded monster. Swallowing pure fire and heavy lead, the great dragon roars, feeling some serious pain. Watching the fireworks show, the young guy demands some praise for that unexpected lethal chaos. Flashing a wicked smile, the young guy serves up his main course packed with the absolute worst traps. Thinking fast, he knows the healing will fail if it gets battered without a single break. So, looking for a way out, the winged prey will definitely fly straight up into the city's dark sky. Summoning his magic trampoline, the kid funnels the target right into the real deadly net. Pointing at the clouds, the master warns that the final guillotine is waiting way up there. Focusing a bright light in his palm, Tsukasa fires his brutal magic, shouting for the activation. Suddenly, a suspicious glow starts forming in the pitch-black clouds. Blinding the runaway dragon, a light tears through the sky, catching it completely off guard. right after a colossal blue thunderbolt drops from the heavens, kissing that horned head, bringing down the lightning spear. The strike punishes the stubborn beast mid-flight. Flying in the ultra-high voltage, the reptile roars in agony, totally paralyzed in the air. Admiring the brutal flash, the MC reveals it's the strongest trap available in the area. Smiling proudly, Tsukasa claims he had scanned his hazard right from the start. But with its thick hide, the monster's leader actively pushes back against the massive shock, with pure fury in its eyes. The flaming lizard locks its hateful sights right on our hero. Radiating intense red energy, the beast begins its dive for a brutal counterattack. Bouncing between the floating trampolines, the young guy just dances around, dodging its claws. Thinking with a cool head, he notices the furious creature's completely reckless stance. Still, summoning another creation spell, the master smirks, hiding his big trick up his sleeve, spawning a brutal iron axe. The pendulum smashes right into the transmission tower, shattering all that solid steel. The high-tension cables expose live currents all over the place. And using all that potent power grid, the kid fuses the trap with a lightning rod, amplifying all that magic. The dragon gets punished by an indescribable purple explosion. Watching its brains fry, the young guy explains that the massive shock triggers a full-on combustion. Yelling at the great armored beast, Tsukasa tells his enemy to burn until it turns to ashes. Slowly frying the beast, the hero confirms that the electrical combo guaranteed the final takedown. Admitting his clear magical disadvantage, the young guy acknowledges his luck on the battlefield. Acting with ultimate big brain energy, Tsukasa used human technology to get his payback. Landing with serious style on the asphalt, the kid dusts himself off, looking toward the future. Walking away in peace, he realizes this bizarre chaos is just going to be the new normal in this world. Checking out the messy wreckage, the young guy points out that invading the human world was their big mistake. Suddenly, blue screens pop up announcing the mission's success and a massive shower of level-ups. Smiling with satisfaction for soloing an area, Tsukasa proves once and for all that he isn't useless. Thinking back on his last 2 dark years, the kid had suffered hard at his rival's cruel hands. Racking up years of pure studying for nothing, he always brought heartache to his loving family. Carrying his beloved brother's old advice in his head, the young guy remembers his own mother's fear, silently giving thanks for all their care. Our hero apologizes for focusing so hard on this path. Carrying the heavy trauma of old lies, the young guy had lived in an abyss of pure loneliness. Wiping away all the pain from his burning chest, he turns his head, focusing strictly on the future. Watching the winged beast turn to dust, the master is confident that the streets have now become a safe zone. Moving forward through the ashes and the heavy silence, Tsukasa plots out his next moves. Staring out at the bluish horizon, the kid decides that his next destination is already locked in, and his big golden goal is the massive central communication building of the local guild. Walking toward the control panel, he knows that dungeons cut off strong signals, but now that he conquered that dome of danger, the big satellites should be back up and running. Reaching the IT room of the huge fancy building, the kid smiles for finding exactly what he wanted. Coating his fingers in pure purple mana, the young guy triggers his creation magic on the lock. Firing off the magic utility stun, a light shock short-circuits the entire system. Pushing the thick locked door open, the hero casually apologizes for his brute force entry. Staring at dozens of lid screens, Tsukasa breaches the association's contact room. Spotting a glowing screen, the kid notices the computers are running perfectly fine. Sitting down in the chair, the young guy is pumped to access the system without needing any digital password. Quickly, Tsukasa reboots the software that crashed from the sudden communication blackout. Watching the area scan on the screen, the kid wonders about the local data search. Soon, the result pops up, confirming the boss's defeat and the total clearance of the A-rank zone. Super surprised, the hero is startled by his neighborhood's bizarre difficulty level. Remembering those brutal beasts, the master totally agrees with that ranking. His eyes going wide, the young guy spots a tiny hidden detail on the monitor. Reading the report, our MC realizes the network actually analyzes dungeons all over the country. Deep in thought, the kid knows that every single city has turned into a dungeon zone. With the world swallowed by chaos, he questions their ability to scan the entire globe. Putting together the guild's best algorithms, the kid puts his trust in their map division. Suddenly, the screen shows a warning, and the young guy is amazed by the calculation speed. But noticing a glitch on the screen, Tsukasa blames the massive amount of global data. Sighing in acceptance, the hero just focuses on the valuable info for his own region. Suffering from pure anxiety, the young guy focuses on the safety of his mom and little sister. Typing super fast on the keyboard, the young guy prays for lower ranks in their neighborhoods. Staring at the large monitors, Tsukasa Tsukasa freezes at all the dangers revealed right there. Suddenly, the system reveals the apocalyptic A rank staining every single neighborhood. Breaking into a cold sweat of shock, our main guy refuses to accept that harsh and painful reality. Jumping up from his chair, the kid yells about the deadly level of the surrounding areas. Shaking with pure dread, the young guy imagines his own neighborhood as the only safe spot left. But paying closer attention, the MC realizes there wasn't a total wipeout. Magically, the monitor updates Shujitatsu's status to a completely cleared area. Soon, other screens light up green, showing dozens of hunters fighting bravely. Figuring out the miracle, the hero realizes that defeating the bosses restored the strong signal. Sighing with genuine relief, the young guy smiles as he understands the whole global situation. Clenching his fist tight, the kid realizes he isn't fighting this war alone. Admiring human strength amidst the chaos, the guy gets hyped over the birth of great legends. Analyzing all the madness, Tsukasa declares the start of a brand new rush for conquests. Rating the official data, the kid confirms the absolute clearance of several dungeons. Remembering the country's top S ranks, the master justifies the rapid military advance. Keeping a very focused gaze, our main guy gulps hard in pure silence. Grabbing the mouse in a hurry, the hero tries to check on his mom's status in Sugatatsu. Quickly, the monitor lights up, confirming the area is secure and the radio signal is back up. Thanking the heavens for the success, the kid whips out his own cell phone right away. Listening to the long rings on the line, the scene cuts to the ruins of that neighborhood. Yelling into the speaker, Tsukasa begs to know if his mom is okay. Crying on the other end, she tells him she's safely rescued and asks how her boy is doing. Calming his mother's heart, our MC immediately asks for news about young Shiori. Stuttering from sheer nerves, his mom claims she talked to the youngest just minutes ago. But holding back her tears, she admits the call dropped because of the bad signal. Understanding his sister's chaotic situation, Tsukasa demands that his mom stay in a safe spot. Taking a massive weight off his shoulders, the young guy shifts all his focus to the west. Typing at top speed, the hero searches for the exact district of his little sister's dorm. Popping up on the screen, the western status shows an active dungeon and a weird extra warning. Writing the district report, the master finds that mysterious secret message super sketchy. Reporting control over the crisis, the local scumbags reject reinforcements even with the boss still alive. Standing completely still, the main guy can't wrap his head around that irresponsible audacity. Showing a recorded video, the renegades reject the official association's orders right then and there. Connecting the dots instantly, Tsukasa realizes it's a bold hijacking of the radio network. Yelling on national broadcast, the criminal leader declares the neighborhood a brand new free nation, sending shivers down his spine. Our hero remembers his little sisters trapped in that mess. Suddenly, a loud noise of a door getting busted open startles the kid at the computer. Yelling down the hallway, soldiers notice the busted lock and start looking for an intruder. Cursing the interruption in his head, the young guy pulls up his magic to sneak away. Popping out of a portal on the roof, the main guy preps his grand escape from there. Lighting up a purple aura on the concrete, the master triggers an urgent magic mechanism. Stepping on the confusion jump, the trap launches him toward a totally random destination. Landing on a faraway building, the kid pants. Feeling his precious mana hit absolute zero. Blaming his low level, he remembers that the orb only raised his max capacity. Having burned through everything against the big dragon, the hero finds himself at a massive disadvantage. Swearing to level up to cover those brutal costs, his cell phone suddenly vibrates. Pulling the device out fast, Tsukasa checks the number flashing on his screen, his eyes going wide in surprise. The kid reads his beloved sister's name on the dark screen. Swiping his finger on the screen, our MC prays to the heavens, calling out the girl's name. Speaking through pure static, Shiori cries while testing the weak, unstable network signal. Yelling into the mic, her brother demands to know if she's safe, completely ignoring his own well-being. Stuttering hard on the line, the youngest demands her brother focus on protecting himself, but with a tragic abrupt cut, the line dies, plunging the kid into a pit of fear. Shaking with anger at the situation, Tsukasa thinks it's ridiculous for thugs to act like they own the place. Recalling the criminal broadcast, the hero makes the biggest decision of his entire life right there. Completely ignoring his exhaustion, the kid brushes off the fear of being out of mana. Clenching his hand glowing in purple, the young guy swears to get his sister back, whatever it takes. Sneaking into the guild shelter, the MC passes by several wounded people groaning in pain. Leading the heavy chaos, a doctor yells for potions, focusing on the survivors there. Hiding his presence in the civilian mess, Tsukasa checks the boxes of magic potions. Swiping a green flask, the trap master chugs the whole thing in one single gulp. Snagging a few more flasks, the kid justifies his heroic act by literally leaving cash to pay the bill. Wiping his mouth with his arm, a strong wave of pure vitality floods his veins. Smiling at the focused blue screen, he celebrates his mana tank hitting 100%. Studying the massive official map, the hero notices two deadly neighborhoods in his path. Knowing the red status, he realizes he'll be crossing two uncleared dungeons. Predicting some brutal clashes, the kid doubts his own strength marching in there totally solo. Sweating cold, imagining two new bosses, the master fears running out of mana all over again. Clenching his fists with pure strength, our MC bets all his chips on his own talent. Flashing blazing eyes, the young guy swears that leveling up will be his absolute top priority. Leaving the official hideout, he breaches the dark border of the Kawabe district. Stepping firmly into Devil's territory, Tsukasa takes a deep breath of the heavy scent of chaos. Showing absolute grit, his true journey into the apocalypse starts right now. Noticing the dead silence, he regrets how peace has turned into a brutal game of Russian roulette. Analyzing the boss divisions, he realizes this hellish war never actually sleeps. Walking through the lawless alleys, the kid keeps all his five senses on high alert. Suddenly, a shady duo blocks Tsukasa's path, laughing mockingly. Cornering the young master, the leader begs for rare items, using monsters as a cheap excuse. Denying he has any gold on him, Tsukasa watches the thugs curse him out with zero chill. Smiling like a total lunatic, the lackey shows off bladed gloves, practically drooling for a fight. Setting up his defensive stance, the kid realizes the filthy level of human cowardice. Charging in like a rabid dog, the thief promises to steal his stuff by tearing him apart. Dodging with pure mastery, Tsukasa simply slides out of the way of that lethal attack. Taking a light scratch to the face, the kid instantly realizes these guys are total bandits. Right after the two scumbags attack, forcing our MC to defend himself. Focusing his strong purple energy into his hand, Tsukasa summons Trap Creation. Smirking with way too much confidence, the thug stares at the magic circle forming. Screaming in pain, the duo gets completely crushed by the lethal disaster weight trap. Pinned to the ground, the thieves stare as the main guy walks right up to them. Looking down at the trapped trash, the young guy wonders if taking out humans also gives experience points. Seeing a real chance for gains, he decides to keep a close eye on these violent hunters, but the hero prefers hunting strictly monsters to reach his big goals. Smirking with a plan in mind, the master tests out his absolutely broken XP farming method. Wrecking everything in Kawabe, metal monsters fire thick red lasers all over. Screaming in total despair, a civilian gets brutally struck down by all that chaos. Freezing for a second, one of the killer robots shows signs of heavy confusion. Suddenly, a weird high-pitched sound grabs all the machine's attention right there. Watching from up in the tree, Tsukasa uses his whistle doll to lure in prey. Smirking, the kid confirms the sound bait is totally drawing the monsters in. Spotting 4 machines rolling up, the young guy thinks it's way too few for a respectable farm. So, lighting up his purple magic, the hero conjures up another trap creation. Instantly, all the robots turn around, totally hypnotized by the loud metallic sound. Drawn in like moths to a flame, the creatures step perfectly into the mark's zone. Stranded inside glowing purple auras, one of the droids looks around searching for the enemy. Suddenly, a massive iron cage drops down, locking its giant padlock shut. Thrashing against the brutal heavy bars, the metal prey are completely locked in. Flashing a super satisfied look, the main guy walks right up to his trap. Smiling sadistically, the kid announces the start of his dreaded freak show. Popping up right in front of the machines, a bright portal appears on the dark ground. Backing away spooked, the cybernetic prey stares at the intense light from the magic mechanism. Stepping out of the unholy glow, an exact copy of the monster emerges to its absolute horror. Short-circuiting, the original robot watches its perfect clone in total confusion. With a wicked smile, Tsukasa reveals the copy mirror trap, multiplying the beast. Explaining how dangerous the technique is, the kid admits it's basically any hunter's worst nightmare. But inside the armored prison, our MC forces the monsters to multiply endlessly. Yelling in pure hype, the hero demands they fill that cage all the way to the top. Watching the horde grow, he explains the simple math behind his massive XP gains. Smiling full of ambition, the master promises to slice them all up together just to get stronger. Crushing against the sides, the small cage gets packed with cybernetic robots totally squeezed in. Hitting the absolute limit, the young guy gets ready to trigger the final gear. Yelling his trap creation, a purple circle covers the entire flying base. Right as there's a heavenly lid glows, charged with heavy magic energy. Staring up at the grim ceiling, the corner prey enter a state of pure panic. Dropping without any mercy, the colossal disaster weight absolutely flattens that packed metal cage. Laughing at the metal oil bath, Tsukasa totally approves of his plan's lethal sweep, nicknaming the combo the Experience Cube. He gets hyped over the dozens of simultaneous takedowns. Immediately, a shower of notifications floods the kid's vision, locking in a ton of XP. Having hit the absolute jackpot, a glorious screen announces a brutal and well-deserved level up. His eyes going wide in shock. The young guy can barely breathe from so much excitement. Celebrating the huge gain, the system surprises him by announcing a brand new divine technique. Reading the screen closely, our MC discovers the broken trap domination skill. Radiating a new blue aura, Tsukasa repeats the magic's name, feeling its weight. Analyzing how domination works, the hero realizes the magical weight behind having that kind of control. Figuring it out fast, he understands he can now recruit monsters to act as his allies. Suddenly, the kid notices a metallic noise coming from the pile of scrap. Spotting a surviving droid on the ground, the master picks it to test out his new gift. Smiling full of conviction, the kid's hand lights up with a bright green glow. Forming a beautiful, natural magic circle, Tsukasa aims right at that robot's chest. Reaching out his right arm, the hero declares the use of his trap domination right there. Traveling super fast through the air, the green aura just bounces right off the beast's metal shell. Frowning in confusion, Tsukasa notices the lethal command was completely repelled. Reasoning in silence, he blames the beast's typing, since it has zero connection to traps. Therefore, wasting such a strong technique on generic creatures ends up being totally useless and flawed. Changing his strategy, the young guy creates a finisher sword, putting the beast down for good. Stepping over the broken parts, the kid thinks of Shiori and gets back to his main quest. Moving through the dense forest, he bets on a tactic he had shelved for a while. Kneeling on the soft grass, the hero's hand glows a bright blue, focusing all his mana. Forcing the trap scan skill, Tsukasa sweeps the dark perimeter. Opening his bionic eyes, the kid hunts for the location of hazards and rare chests. Seeing the hologram map, the young guy spots a museum packed with lethal traps. Poking around the building's roots, the master notices an extremely long underground pathway. Hyped about the route hidden in the shadows, Tsukasa's eyes sparkle with pure ambition. Jumping up fast from the ground, the young guy smiles, cracking the mystery of the grand hideout. Staring at the target on his screen, our main guy decides to break into that massive place. Marching through the thick trees, the hero doesn't back down from this new challenge. Dodging large dry branches, the guy steps with extreme and delicate care. Suddenly, the MC slams the brakes, hiding behind the thick trunk of a pine tree. Peeking out at the scenery calmly, a beautiful, gigantic lake breaks up the green view. Wiping the sweat from his smooth forehead, the young guy bets he's super close to the luxury area. Stepping out of the wooden maze, Tsukasa celebrates, finding the museum to be pretty modern. Checking out the heavy armored doors, he believes there's a super valuable secret passage inside. Stepping inside the fancy museum, the doors lock shut with a loud metallic clink. Scanning the dead silent lobby, the kid remembers the various lethal spots on his radar. Memorizing the fake coordinates, he steps lightly, dodging the rigged floor tiles. Just then, he spots a poorly camouflaged chest and kicks the wood, mocking the dumb disguise. Summoning his pulsing green aura, our MC plans to use trap domination. Immediately, the mimic known as Gashawu is wrapped up by the dominating magic. His eyes going wide at the glow, the kid gets hyped over the huge success of the taming. Proving his strong intuition right, the beast was actually a fake magic treasure chest. Being classified as a literal deadly trap itself, the creature usually ambushes hunters. Sighing in relief, he notes that his scan saw right through the disguised danger. Smirking wickedly, the new master approves of the magic being's passive recruitment. Staring at the wooden crate, Tsukasa bets on his new little pet's deep loyalty. But suddenly, letting out smoke, the crate violently pounces straight at our MC. Left speechless and shocked, the young guy doesn't understand the obvious fatal flaw of his spell. Spooked with his guard down, Tsukasa gets thrown and knocked over by the heavy impact. Bouncing his aching back against the polished floor, the guy just groans, pretty banged up. Rubbing his chest on the ground, the hero trembles as he sees the terrifying beast inching closer. Flashing two round, super cute eyes, the little chest lets out a really adorable sound. Panting heavily after the fall, Tsukasa sees the creature rubbing its body against him affectionately. Noticing its sweet temper, the kid figures the beast recognized him as its owner right there. Blinking slowly and happily, the little monster Mimi shines with beautiful pure golden details. Sighing in confusion at all that cuteness, the main guy pets his very first ally. Holding the mimic in his arms, our MC finds it a bit creepy but sees his magic worked perfectly. Getting up from the floor, the young guy decides to finally explore that underground passage. Heading down the dark stairs, the hero is closely followed by the little monster. Reaching the long hallway, Tsukasa figures the dungeon engine carved out this huge route, and since it was formed out of nowhere, the kid bets it's a super valuable secret shortcut. Stating the obvious, he concludes the underground path totally bypasses the sea of monsters up above. Putting on a super serious face, the master prays his intuition is right on the money. Staring down an imposing door at the very end, the kid senses some serious lethal danger ahead. Standing side by side with the chest, the main guy decides to name his brand new ally. Smiling gently, the hero pets the lid and names the little monster Meanie. Its eyes sparkling with pure joy, the crate shows it absolutely loves the cute new nickname. Noticing the wholesome reaction, Tsukasa is amazed by how hyped the beast gets just from getting a name. Holding his ally in his arms, the young guy warns her about the high danger waiting for them. Super hyped for the mission, Mimi lets out a short and incredibly adorable bark. Trusting his magical partner, the main guy invites her to march forward together. Grabbing the cold handle of the massive door, the hero mentally preps himself for a fight. Cracking it open just a bit, the kid spots a figure wrapped in a glowing purple aura. Soon enough, a dark-armored knight is seen standing right in the center of the mysterious room, lighting up the whole dark space. Magic torches spark to life all by themselves on the walls. Then, the hero finds himself staring at a massive statue of a black armored warrior. Scanning the room closely, the young guy spots the exit route right behind the statue. Calmly, our MC steps into the center of the hall with loyal Mimi trailing right behind him. Approaching the stone sculpture, Tsukasa stays totally focused on his next move. Looking dead serious, the kid stares at the monument without even blinking. Exactly as his radar predicted, the beast springs to life, drawing its massive sword. Quickly, the master reacts, throwing up a solid purple barrier to defend himself. Right then, the enemy's strike is blocked by the tough stone wall the hero threw up. Ignoring the magic defense, the armored boss winds up for a way heavier hit. But using pure brute force, the beast shatters the shield, making our MC groan. Confirming his whole suspicion, our guy realizes the monster wakes up when someone gets too close. Remembering his earlier scan, the radar had pointed out a lethal monster hiding in that hall, and needing a live target to tame, the hero forced the creature to wake up. But something completely out of his control forces the guy to turn his head. Suddenly, a silver female knight with white hair attacks him right from behind. Immediately, the warrior strikes, forcing the MC to throw up his iron wall on the spot. Startled by the sheer power of the hit, the young guy yells as he watches his defense turn to dust. Sent flying by the massive shockwave, the main guy slides several meters backward. Catching his balance, Tsukasa stares down the fully revealed warrior. Analyzing his new rival, the kid notices her absurd agility and completely random footwork, sweating bullets over her erratic moves. The hero fears getting hit with a fatal strike. Suddenly, the master figures out exactly which massive blind spot she was aiming for. Targeting his back, the warrior forces him to pop a quick diamond block. Confirming his own fear, the kid is absolutely sure she always hunts for blind spots. Refusing to fight an armored beast head-on, the young guy creates a ton of distance. Smiling super confidently in his own gift, Tsukasa summons his trap domination. Instantly, a blinding green light shoots straight at the tall warrior, hitting his big target dead center. The aura wraps entirely around her impenetrable armor. Completely stunned, the hero watches his mind control get cancelled out immediately. Turning his head in confusion, the young guy spots cute little Meanie hiding behind a pillar, shaking with fear. Figuring out his current magical limits, our MC knows he's going to have to spam the spell. So, refusing to take an L here, Tsukasa braces himself for the absolute worst. His hand glowing bright green, the kid swears he'll spam his technique until he tames the boss. Firing frantic beams, the hero struggles against the warrior's super fast dodges. Spitting pure frustration, the guy realizes his first hit was nothing but dumb luck. Desperately looking for a way out, the hero needs to read the beast's bizarre footwork. Panting heavily from exhaustion, Tsukasa bets there's a weak point in her crazy movement. Getting a brilliant lethal idea, he decides to set up an ambush to stop the target in her tracks. Slapping both hands on the cold floor, the kid summons a brand new creation magic right there. Watching the woman lunge forward, Tsukasa dodges her high-speed slash by a literal millimeter. Spinning her body in midair, the brutal knight brings her blade down to crush her prey. But right in the middle of her heavy attack, the basin drop dumps water all over her, soaking her completely. Getting totally drenched, the boss freezes for a second, having no idea what kind of joke this is. Snapping back into killer mode, the beast swings her blade, demanding some sharp reflexes. Resting his hands on the wet asphalt, Tsukasa smirks, staring down his new rival, mocking her lethal rage. Our MC swears the water was just a harmless little prank. Once again, the silver woman lunges, tearing through the wind to slice the young guy for good. But dripping wet in her armor, the boss totally gives away the biggest secret to her footwork. With that, thin puddles of water form on the ground, tracing the creature's exact path. Hyped about his fluid bait tactic, the hero finally understands how to break her pattern. Now Tsukasa just focuses on the next puddle to fire his mind control, launching his potent green magic. The beam hits the knight's body dead on, bathed in the hypnotic light. The warrior tries to fight off the beams of pure control, ignoring the visual glitch. The hero yells, spamming several domination shots at once. Landing another perfect hit, Tsukasa bets on stacking the magic to finally break the target. Putting all his arm strength into it, the kid yells, firing off another green blast right at her. Smiling at his flawless hits, our guy is absolutely certain he's going to tame the beast. Declaring war on the monster's mind, the kid forces the lethal brainwashing to stick. Meanwhile, cute little Mimi watches the clash, terrified that her beloved owner might meet his end. Sweating heavily, Tsukasa feels his muscles burning and his stamina slowly draining away. Noticing his mana pool blinking red, the young guy realizes he's only got one shot left. Fearing a brutal, tragic defeat, Tsukasa bets his entire fate on this final lethal beam. Right then, the silver warrior charges in, shattering the floor, ready to execute the hero. Betting his own life on the line, the kid burns through the very last bit of his magic mana. Stretching out his shaking hand, the guy begs the heavens for the enchantment to take hold. Then Tsukasa screams, unleashing all of his trap domination in one final burst. Swallowing up the shadows in the room, a violent green light completely blinds the whole area. Slowly, the dust settles, revealing the paralyzed body of the feared killer warrior. Totally out of breath, the hero trembles, waiting for the final result of all that madness. His eyes going wide in disbelief, Tsukasa notices the silver beast standing frozen like a statue. Reading the heavy tension in the room, the master feels all her killer intent evaporating fast. Smiling with a ton of relief that the danger is over, RMC finally makes his brand new subordinate official. Echoing with a loud metallic clink, the warrior drops her sword on the floor and takes a knee. Then the woman bows her head, begging for forgiveness for her brutal attack earlier. Stuttering in total surprise, the hero is absolutely shocked to realize the beast actually speaks his language. Super curious, Tsukasa asks for the name and role of this bizarre lady. Slowly, the boss takes off her heavy helmet, showing her beautiful, mature face to her owner. Rocking gorgeous red eyes and silver hair, the beautiful warrior flashes a gentle smile. Revealing her true look, the lead soldier formally introduces herself. Staring at the stunning woman on the floor, the main guy tries to process all this absolute insanity. Swearing eternal loyalty, the servant begs for a name and the protection of her new lord. Thinking over the offer, our guy agrees and decides to give her a name fitting for a knight. Smiling kindly, the kid names her, declaring that from now on, she will be known as Jean. Overflowing with emotion, Jean repeats her new name, feeling incredibly happy. Showing immense honor, the warrior accepts her baptism, swearing pure loyalty to her master. Suddenly, a loud rumble echoes through the hall, forcing Tsukasa to snap his head around on high alert. Letting out a super cute squeak, Mimi pops out of hiding, looking pretty annoyed. Running right up to Jean, the little chest scolds her brand new silver ally. Bowing respectfully, the woman acknowledges Mimi as her senior in their new army. Super confused, Tsukasa is totally shocked to see an actual military hierarchy between beasts. But cutting the small talk, the master lets them know the group is in a huge rush to get out of there, speeding up their march to the exit. The kid is quickly stopped by the silver soldier. Flashing a serious look, Jean warns him that their duel actually triggered the local boss's awakening. Panicking hard, the young guy demands answers from his brand new lead servant. Revealing her old job, the warrior admits she used to be the dungeon's gatekeeper. So the brutal fight against an intruder acted like an alarm, waking up the king of the area. Realizing a clash with the boss is unavoidable, the main guy goes into absolute panic mode. Sweating cold over the incoming fight, Tsukasa completely regrets taking that stupid shortcut. Backing away in total fear, the kid tries to ditch the dark route and head back upstairs. But his loyal knight warns him that running away just isn't an option anymore. Pointing at the lock, glowing in bright red, she announces the door is completely sealed shut. Smiling gently, Jean states that the only clear path forward is right through through the boss. Yelling in pure dread, Tsukasa refuses to accept certain death while his mana is completely drained. Suddenly, cute little Mimi nudges her owner's leg, totally grabbing his attention. Popping her own wooden lid open, the little monster reveals an item hidden inside. His eyes going wide, the young hero receives a glowing blue flask from his mascot. His jaw dropping, the guy recognizes it as a super rare magic recovery potion. Grabbing the small bottle, Tsukasa praises the mimic's perfect and super handy inventory. Chugging the liquid in one go, the kid smiles, feeling totally refreshed and ready for the big showdown. But the knight dumps a bucket of ice water on him, demanding some high-level water magic. Revealing the fire beast's true nature, she warns that taking it down requires an entire water squad. Sighing heavily, the master admits he doesn't know any wet spells to put out flames. Brainstorming a lethal strategy, Tsukasa is caught off guard by a high-pitched sound from his mascot. Giving off a super curious aura, little Gachu signals she's got a big plan in mind. Staring at the silver warrior, our MC remembers the restrictions on the massive locked door. Flashing a clever smirk, a genius idea lights up the main guy's mind. Questioning the rule's limits, he considers escaping using the sheer brute force of his monsters. Thinking it over, Jean guarantees that magic beasts can totally ignore the strong human seal. Suddenly, a violent earthquake shakes the entire room, spooking the whole squad. Gulping hard, the kid realizes the dungeon master has completely lost all its patience. Immediately, the lair's door blows up in a sea of fire, slamming a blade right into the asphalt. Yelling in pure desperation, the soldier demands a magic barrier against the incoming heat wave. Acting on pure instinct, Tsukasa throws up a massive purple shield, protecting his team. Suddenly, a tsunami of fire sweeps through the entire room, leaving the duo in absolute shock. Spitting pure annoyance, the kid realizes the group is totally tracked by the hellish flames. Focused on saving his subordinates, the master holds up the defense against the fatal heat. Fearing the intense rain of flaming rocks, the young guy watches the apocalypse unfold alongside his warrior. Admiring the boss's destructive power, Tsukasa notices the sturdy structure completely collapsing. Shaking from the effort, the main guy forces up a thin ice wall just to cool things down. Raining living meteors from the dark ceiling, the place turns into absolute hell on earth. Out of nowhere, the ground cracks, drawing a massive purple magic circle right beneath their feet. Like some twisted elevator, the rock rises, taking the team straight up to the true final arena. Oozing seriousness and cold focus, the great master preps his weapons for the duel. Staring across the ring, the majestic incarnation of pure fire reveals its body. Burning with volcanic eyes, the Dungeon King glares at the intruders with total bloodlust. Looking around at the ancient ruins, the guy realizes the entire path was forcing this exact encounter. Wiping the tense sweat off his face, Tsukasa focuses 100% of his attention on the creature. Watching the ground slowly melt away, he decides to make a run for it before he turns to ash in the flames. Locking eyes with little Mimi, the hero orders her on a strictly solo mission. Whispering the secret plan, he tells his mascot to fall back. Listening to the little chest cry. Cutting the goodbye short, the knight yells, demanding a super fast dodge against the incoming lethal strike. Roaring like a literal demon, the flame dragon fires a boiling laser straight at the team. His eyes totally focused, Tsukasa bets everything on his crazy high escape speed. Shoving Jane super far out of the way, the hero saves her by planting a purple seal on the asphalt. Tumbling hard across the dirty ground, the silver warrior gets up, staring down the burning boss. Fearing the absolute worst-case scenario, the kid turns his head, screaming his mascot's name. Sighing in relief, the young hero sees Mimi running safely toward the massive locked door. Thinking about the system's flaw, our guy uses the anti-human lock totally to his advantage. Since monsters are the only exception to the rule, little Mimi will slip through the lock with zero issues. Smiling with extreme confidence, the master trusts his very life to his chest's little wheels. Refocusing on the flaming beast, the kid calls upon his trap creation once again. Materializing the mysterious warp hole exit, a portal pops up right in front of the monster. Ignoring the dark teleport magic, the Flame King charges in to burn the trash to a crisp. Yelling at the top of her lungs, Jean warns of a second burning wave sweeping across the arena. Jumping in totally opposite directions, master and servant barely dodge the incandescent bazooka shot. Sliding through the minefield, Jean slices through the tongues of fire, shielding her lord. Dancing with agile sword moves, the silver woman preps her counterattack. Smiling super proudly at her impenetrable defense, Tsukasa praises his ally's raw talent. Dropping any extra protection, the young guy takes on the grand role of suicide bait. Calling out his lethal plan, the hero orders Jean to shatter the boss's leg right under his portal. Overflowing with pure loyalty, the warrior swears she'll succeed even if it costs her life. Weighing the battlefield risks, our MC bets his entire victory on little Mimi's success. Guiding her steps from afar, his first order forced the little monster to break out of that museum. Pushing the mission's urgency, the second goal required her to cross the forest without a second thought. Wrapping up the escape route, the meetup point demanded she dive right into the huge blue lake. Flashing bright, loyal eyes, Mimi rushes through the thick brush, following her owner's exact commands. Slamming the brakes at the edge of the fresh water, the chest preps for the final stage of their magic trump card. Taking a massive leap of faith, the little mimic dives deep under the beautiful moonlight. Cutting back to the underground hell, the beast of flames roars, spitting pure hate and fire. Pushing his body to its absolute limits, Tsukasa throws up the diamond block against the flames. Taking heavy pressure on the front lines, the hero calls for his subordinate's sneak attack. Sliding right through the intense blaze, Jean finds the perfect opening and launches her counterattack. Delivering a lightning-fast, dead-on strike, the warrior completely severs the massive beast's fiery leg. Going totally blind with pain and fury, the volcanic boss roars, shaking the entire cave structure. Taking advantage of his target's bum leg, Tsukasa forces chains to tie the creature down to the ground. Smiling gloriously, the kid gets totally hyped, pinning the incarnation of fire right under his portal. Navigating the muddy bottom of the lake, Mini preps to unleash her master's ultimate trump card. Popping her wet lid open, the mimic unleashes the other dimensional half of the purple spell. Instantly, the magic sphere expands, turning into a massive drain that sucks in absolutely everything. Sucking in tons of water through the entrance, the aquatic portal connects directly to the boss. Watching the massive beast held hostage right on his mark, Tsukasa just waits for the miracle downpour. Suddenly, tiny drops of water start falling straight out of the portal. Looking up, the fire boss is completely confused by the whole situation. Flashing a victorious smile, the kid watches his plan come together perfectly, and having zero clue what's going on, the beast of flames is caught totally off guard. Then, the lake water blasts out of the portal all at once, hitting the boss dead on. Dropping down with full force, the waterfall crashes right onto the fire beast. Swallowed by the massive flood, the monster starts dissolving on the spot. Quickly, the whole arena gets flooded with water, and the current just keeps getting stronger. Spotting the danger, our guy yells for Jen to get behind him so she doesn't get swept away, triggering his trap creation super fast to keep them both safe. But the water just keeps pouring out endlessly, flooding the entire place. Trying to break free, the big boss gets weaker and weaker from the heavy attack. The water pressure is so insane that the arena quickly turns into a literal river. Yelling again, the kid warns his ally to hold on tight. Focusing hard, the young guy preps his absolute last trick up his sleeve. Moving fast, he throws up a massive purple wall right in front of them. With that, the prison wall pops up, blocking all the raw power of the rushing current. Celebrating the win, he's totally hyped that his portal water attack actually worked. Thinking back on his plan, he knows it normally would have taken a whole squad of water hunters. And since he had no way to spawn water underground, he came up with the genius idea to just use the lake. So, he sent Mimi outside to leave an armed portal ready to go, hooking the exit right above the boss's head to make the waterfall blasted for good. Screaming in pain from the flood, the fire monster gets totally overpowered. Suddenly, a super bright point of light pops up right on the beast's chest. Pointing out the core, Jean tells her master to smash the orb and end the fight. Without wasting a single second, the MC triggers his track creation for the finishing blow. A purple blade shoots out of a magic circle, ready for the kill. Tearing through the water, the finisher sword hits the boss's core dead center. With its entire body falling apart, the creature of flames finally meets its end. Standing safe behind their wall, the two of them watch the victory from the front row. Then, the water stops pouring, and the big monster's body starts turning to stone. Suddenly, their defensive barrier shatters into a bunch of light particles. Breathing a sigh of relief in the totally silent arena, Tsukasa turns to his partner. Right then, cute little Mimi pops out of a puddle, squeaking with pure happiness. Smiling, Jean praises the chest and announces that their mission to take down the boss was a total success. Walking up to Mimi, the young guy thanks her a ton for her awesome help. Letting out an adorable squeak, the chest rubs against her master, super happy she could be useful. Out of nowhere, a glowing dagger appears, stuck right into the dead boss's statue. Soon, the stone body turns to dust, and the mysterious blade is left just floating in the air, explaining that it's the area area's hidden item. The knight tells her master to grab it. Totally surprised, the main guy asks if it's really secret loot. Grabbing the dagger, he already figures it must be something ultra rare and super hard to find. Explaining everything, Jean says the item at the bottom of the lake got sucked in through the water portal. Flashing a hype smile, the kid holds his brand new weapon, looking totally satisfied. Thinking to himself, he never would have guessed he'd score loot from the bottom of a lake. Checking the loot out, he discovers it's the mystic light blade, packed with hidden powers. Knowing it's a special weapon, he gets super eager to test out its damage in a real fight. But out of nowhere, the ground starts shaking violently, scaring everyone around. Startled, the guy gets confused, but his servant tells him to just stay calm. Smiling, she explains that the tremor is just the dungeon opening up a path for its conqueror. And a bright light suddenly flashes, revealing their escape route to the next area. Walking right through the portal, they pop out straight into a manhole on the border between the two districts. Climbing completely out of the manhole, the young guy realizes he's just one step away from the next city over. Sighing in relief that he made it this far, he's quickly interrupted by a loud shout. Turning his head, he spots a group of people running straight toward him and has no idea what's going on. Getting worried, he tells Jean to hide so things don't go south if they see a monster standing there. Letting out a heavy sigh, he turns around to face the mysterious group. Right away, one of the guys starts lecturing him, saying it's super dangerous to wander around alone during an emergency. Taking a closer look, the MC realizes they're from the Hunter Association, out helping civilians. But when the group recognizes him, he just asks them to clear the path. And one of the hunters asks if he's the famous independent S-rank hunter Ninomiya. Smiling, the guy pulls up a photo on his tablet and says his fame has already blown up everywhere, even mentioning the wild rumor that the kid took down an area boss totally solo. Looking a bit embarrassed, the hero admits he put on quite a show and totally gets why the rumor got so huge. Jumping at the chance, the group leader invites the young guy to officially join their squad, even offering to finish his official hunter registration right there on the spot. Fainting over the tempting offer, the young guy remembers that becoming official used to be his biggest dream. Clenching his fists tight, he finally makes his absolute final decision. Giving a slight bow, he turns down the offer flat out. Totally shocked, the leader asks if he seriously prefers to keep running solo. Staying totally silent with his head down, our guy stands firm on his decision. Sighing, the leader respects his reasons but regrets missing out on such a powerhouse ally. Accepting the rejection, the man warns him to be super careful on the road ahead. Pointing forward, he warns about some highly dangerous criminals operating in the Iwatanani district. Thinking about that warning, the kid remembers Asunuma and gets the feeling the threat is way worse now. Knowing even the association is spooked, he decides to keep his eyes peeled. Right after the squad completely disappears from sight, he helps Jean climb out of her hiding spot in the manhole. Super curious, the knight asks if brushing those guys off was really the right move. Nodding firmly, he says that in an apocalyptic world, an official title means absolutely nothing. Looking dead serious, he admits he doesn't trust anybody, not even the association. Flashing a gentle smile, the hero claims he already has all the companions he needs. Looking at Jean and Mimi, he praises them both as the absolute most loyal allies he could ever ask for. Smiling huge, the little monsters look like they're totally melting with happiness from the awesome compliment. Stepping right into the Iwatani district, the kid instantly triggers his famous trap scan. Dropping to his knees, he checks the terrain looking for the safest and fastest route possible. Checking out the map right in front of him, Tsukasa gets puzzled by the details of the new region. Soon, the scan shows a massive pixelated glitch right in the middle of the map, leaving him completely confused. Shocked by his radar, the young guy jumps up, having zero clue what's going on. Staring at the anomaly on his holographic map, he wonders what the heck that thing is. Walking closer to the spot, he confirms that it's exactly the glitched area that popped up on his scan. Staring at an amusement park, he figures the mysterious mark is hidden somewhere inside. Thinking it over, the hero feels like ignoring that creepy mark on the map could lead to some serious trouble. But his main goal was to find his sister Shiori as fast as possible, without taking any massive detours. Still, that dangerous anomaly bugs him way too much, making him decide to just investigate it once and for all. Starting to walk again, he hears little Mimi make a weird noise and turns to check it out. And suddenly, the main guy pulls a completely shocked face looking straight ahead, running right up to a bizarre, gigantic object to figure out what it actually is. Checking out the sinister structure spawned by the dungeon, he wonders if this is the actual anomaly. Walking up to a warning sign, he notices there's something super important written on it. Reading the message that says, a giant monster is sleeping inside and telling everyone not to touch it. Getting confused, the kid wonders if this destroyer could be some kind of giant mecha. Right then, Jean warns him to watch out for this catastrophe-level trap. Explaining everything, she says it's a massive, rare trap hiding a deep mystery. Totally surprised, the MC mentions he never read anything about this back at the guild. Getting a bad feeling, he thinks it's best not to trigger that thing by accident. Making up his mind, the hero figures it's way better to ignore his curiosity and just keep moving. Walking through the forest, the young guy points out with relief that the path has gotten a lot calmer. Peeking from behind a tree, he realizes that relying solely on the scan to find a shortcut is pretty tough. Quickly, he spots something weird and wonders what exactly is going down over there. Attacking with pure rage, a massive monster scatters a bunch of hunters who are shouting confusing orders. Watching from a distance, the main guy recognizes the association and spots their serious lack of experience. Seeing the beast charge, he realizes the group has absolutely zero coordination in this fight. Knowing they're going to end up dead, the kid decides to jump right into the middle to help out. Running straight into the brawl, he leaves his hiding spot to save the squad. But out of nowhere, something makes him freeze in his tracks, completely caught off guard. Right then, a blinding flash of golden light slices through the air right in front of him. Wielding a glowing sword, a redhead appears out of nowhere at top speed. Delivering a heavy strike, the girl's blade smashes into the ground, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. Quickly shielding his face, the main guy braces against the impact. Soon after, Jean checks if her master got hurt, and the young guy assures her he's totally fine. Looking ahead, they watch the giant beast drop dead to the floor instantly. Mind blown by the scene, the kid analyzes the sheer damage of that sneak attack. Using the lightning-fast move, the mysterious swordswoman sliced the monster clean in half. Totally stunned, the hunters have no idea who just took down the beast that fast. Sheathing her sword right away, the girl apologizes for crashing their fight out of nowhere. Turning to face the crowd, she introduces herself as Tumuki, an S-rank hunter. Explaining everything, she says she attacked the beast while hunting the area's boss. Staying hidden, the hero gets spooked by the absurd power behind that strike. Taking the chance, the girl invites the squad to team up and hunt the big boss with her. Hesitating a lot, one of the guys tries to speak up, looking pretty unsure. Shooting them a serious look, the redhead warns that the chances of this being a fight to the death are super high. Smiling with way too much confidence, the team seems to completely brush off the danger warning. Accepting the mission on the spot, the group thinks victory is already in the bag just because they're A ranks. Cheering happily, they yell out in pure hype to hunt the beast, and the girl agrees. Flashing a smile, the swordswoman steps forward and tells everyone to start the search. Thinking the girl is way too naive, the MC knows this weak squad is going to get wiped out in seconds. Being questioned by Jean, the hero decides to just ignore everyone there since he's in a rush. And staying super focused on his mission, he decides to fly right through the forest. Reaching the edge of a river, the young guy comments that the valley-filled terrain is absolutely massive. Letting out a sigh, he accepts that the only option is to keep pushing forward from there. But he suddenly stops and looks back, sensing a really sketchy presence. Running his hand through his hair, the kid sighs, annoyed by all the bizarre stuff happening. Turning around fully, he tells the spy to just come out already, pointing out that the guy sucks at hiding. Staring at a pile of rocks, he stands with his arms crossed, just waiting for the intruder to show up. Throwing out a threat on the spot, the hero warns he's going to use his traps to flush the guy out. Trembling with fear, a man jumps out from behind the rock, begging for his life. Absolutely terrified, the guy swears he's just a normal civilian passing through. Dropping to his knees, he cries and begs not to be turned into monster food. Totally lost, the main guy questions this crazy talk about being eaten. Right then, cute little Mimi pops up next to him, making the guy scream in pure terror. Seeing the guy freak out, the young guy realizes that walking around with monsters naturally scares normal civilians. Apologizing profusely, the MC explains he's just a hunter traveling with tamed monsters. Still in shock, the man stutters and asks if he's really an official hunter. Sighing in relief, the guy grabs the hero's leg, begging for help. Explaining that he's completely lost, he pleads to be taken somewhere safe. Thinking about it, the kid feels it's a terrible time to play tour guide since he's in such a rush. But remembering the local monsters, he feels bad about just ditching the guy to die. Hatching a plan, he remembers the swordswoman squad and decides to dump the burden on them. Making his decision, the young guy agrees to help and promises to take the civilian straight to the official group. Throwing his arms up in celebration, the guy shouts happily, thinking he's already saved. But Mimi jumps right in front of him again, making the coward let out another scream of fright. Scolding the chest, the hero tells her not to scare the poor guy like that. Sizing up the situation, Tsukasa knows that walking around with beasts is going to cause trouble later. Looking over at Jean, he tells his partner to stay hidden and wait to avoid any mess. Agreeing with the orders, his partner accepts while the civilian watches the whole thing looking super suspicious. Starting the march, the kid leads the way, and the man follows close behind looking all excited. Walking down the trail, the sketchy guy mentions he totally hit the jackpot finding help in the forest, warning the guy to stay alert. The main guy points out that a monster could attack out of nowhere. Flashing a bizarre smile, the man reveals his true evil intentions. Calling the young guy an idiot in his head, the thief laughs at his totally blind kindness. Right then, he attacks the kid's back, mocking his absolute naivety. But a glowing circle pops up on the hero's back, blocking the strike and startling the guy. Super surprised, the bandit stares at his own hand locked against the glowing shield. Quickly, a purple fist counters the attack, smashing right into the villain's face with full force. Sent flying by the punch, the guy screams in pain while the hero shows he already saw the betrayal coming. Remembering the recent warning, he already knew the area was swarming with cowardly bandits. Sprawled on the dirty ground, the piece of trash laughs, confirming he noticed the kid's suspicion. Getting up super fast, the villain flashes a yellow disc in his hands, taunting his opponent. Transforming the light into a blue sword, the rat smirks and asks if the MC noticed the theft. Going into total shock, the young guy stares at his own weapon in the enemy's hands, entirely in disbelief. Recognizing the rare loot from afar, he freaks out over letting the scumbag swipe his sword. Busting up laughing, the criminal calls the poor guy way too dumb and careless. Flashing back to what happened, the scumbag snatched the weapon the exact second he took that magic punch. Revealing his technique, he says he steals the highest rarity item the moment he attacks. Holding the blade with a victorious look, he brags about his rarity theft skill. Acting like he owns the world, the trash charges forward, yelling that he's invincible with that loot. Right then, a beautiful magic circle activates on the ground, catching the rival totally off guard. Quickly, a ring of thorny vines surrounds the bandit before he can even react. Screaming in sharp pain, the coward gets crushed by plants shooting out from the floor and ceiling. Squeezed way too tight, he ends up dropping the stolen weapon right on the forest floor. Completely immobilized by the imprisoning vine, the scumbag realizes he's got no way out. Hanging upside down, he yells furiously while the master claims he didn't even do anything. Spilling his plan, the main guy states he deliberately threw the trash right into the trap. Explaining the trick, he reveals he spotted the danger from far away using his famous scan. Retrieving his dropped dagger, the kid warns that the bandit isn't the only one who plays dirty in fights. Flashing a mocking smile, he asks how it feels to be all tied up and totally unarmed. Pressing the blade right against the rival's neck, the young guy leaves the illegal hunter shaking, shooting him a killer glare. He asks if the worm wants to be the guinea pig for this blade. Crying in pure terror, the guy begs not to be choked to death in the middle of those vines. Going totally desperate, the criminal offers the map to the secret loot in exchange for his life. Very surprised, the young guy questions this whole talk about a mysterious secret loot. Pressing the sword against him, the hero asks if the trash actually knows something real. Screaming in desperation, the criminal swears he knows the item's exact location and begs to be let go. Keeping the blade on the worm's neck, the kid orders him to spit out the truth already. Thinking it over carefully, the MC remembers his scan didn't pick up any treasure at the entrance. Thinking about his tactic, he knows rare loot is usually hidden in areas packed with traps. Since those treasures are heavily guarded, the scan easily spots the danger around them. But sometimes items are stashed in remote, empty areas, making the radar pretty useless. Putting on a serious look, he concludes that this specific item must be in one of those isolated spots. Out of nowhere, Jean comes flying in, asking with super deep concern if her master is okay. Explaining everything, she says she heard the sounds of a fight and rushed over with Mimi to help. Feeling really happy, the kid thanks her for caring and is relieved they're right there with him. Pointing at the tied-up guy, he explains that the piece of trash is an illegal hunter and a thief. Grasping the situation, the knight immediately offers to deliver the finishing blow. Drawing her glowing sword, she preps to slice the bandit into literal pieces. His eyes going wide in pure terror, the guy totally loses his mind at the scene. Screaming not to die, he begs the woman to hold on and just hear his story out. Swearing he's telling the absolute truth, he insists he found a real clue to the secret loot. Exchanging a doubtful look, the master and servant pause to listen to the worms crying. Spilling the beans, the bandit says he was wandering around looking for a lone hunter to rob. Continuing his story, he claims he was walking along the bottom of a deep canyon, until, out of nowhere, the entire stone wall of the cliff started moving all on its own. Describing the scene perfectly, he reveals that a giant stone golem spawned right in front of him. Losing his patience, the hero demands to know what the heck that has to do with the secret item. Getting annoyed, the prisoner calls the young guy dumb and says the answer is pretty obvious. Screaming at the top of his lungs, he yells that a beast that huge could only be guarding a chest. Thinking it over, Tsukasa feels like a big boss. Guarding an item is just way too cliche. Right then, Jean warns that trusting this trash is completely stupid, but admits there's a real chance he's right. Explaining further, she says the dungeon sometimes drops loot in super obvious spots, agreeing with his servant's logic. The kid decides to give the clue a little vote of confidence. Letting out a sigh, he summons his stolen blue sword and gets ready to move. With a focused look, the young guy decides to grab the item and see if it'll help rescue Shiori. Giving his order, the kid tells the trash to lead the way to the golem without taking the vines off. Shooting a killer glare, he makes it absolutely clear that he's not playing around. Out of nowhere, a loud noise breaks the forest's silence, grabbing everyone's attention. Looking to the side, the young guy notices a super bright golden glow shining through the trees. Completely surprised, his eyes go wide when he sees who's showing up, doing a perfect spin in midair. Tsumugi slices through all the vines, freeing the prisoner on the spot. Since the strike was so brutal, the plants explode, and our MC ends up getting thrown backward. Screaming their master's name, the two little monsters rush over to help the fallen young guy. Landing right in front of the villain, Tsumugi yells at the main guy to stay right where he is. Drawing her katana with pure hate in her eyes, she announces she finally found the forest's illegal hunter. Recognizing the S rank, the hero gets totally confused and asks if that crazy accusation is meant for him. Right then, the hunter squad pops out of nowhere and completely surrounds Jean and Mimi. Moving super fast, the armed men point their weapons straight at the little monsters. Gripping his sword, one of the guys yells that they're going to annihilate the criminal with zero mercy. Adding to the threat, another guy shouts they'll kill the beasts, making Mimi cry out in fear. Freaking out, the MC yells for Jane not to attack because these guys got everything completely wrong. Seeing the situation completely spiral out of control, he preps to step in and stop the fight. Making a lightning-fast move, he summons his abrupt shield to block the redhead's sword. But even with the shield, the force of the impact sends the kid flying, making him grunt in pain. Super worried, the knight screams her master's name in total desperation. Furious, the S-rank yells that taming evil monsters is absolute proof he's a villain. In a lot of pain, the boy screams at her to stop jumping to totally wrong conclusions without thinking. Taking advantage of all the chaos, the real bandit laughs at his luck and sneaks off into the bushes. Ready for a total bloodbath, Jean asks if her master wants her to slaughter all those humans. Completely shocked that the beast can talk, the redhead throws her guard up, totally spooked. Horrified by his servant's words, the young guy screams that killing official hunters is strictly forbidden. Accepting his orders to run away with Mimi, Jean says she'll fall back immediately. Scooping up the little chest, the woman takes off at insane speed and vanishes into the forest. Super impressed, the extras yell that the humanoid monster is way too fast to keep up with. With a dead serious look, the swordswoman analyzes the humanoid monster's absurd escape, smashing through the wooden barrier in a single strike. Tsumugi charges forward, practically foaming at the mouth with rage. Blown backward by the explosion, the kid slides across the dirt while the guys just watch. Weapon in hand, the redhead orders her squad to focus entirely on the monster tamer and corner the villain. Facing the absurd accusation, Tsukasa repeats the insult illegal hunter with complete seriousness. Praising the guy ironically, she says staying behind to save his monsters is actually kind of cute, but she quickly warns that it's now 4 against 1, and there's absolutely no way the bandit is making it out alive. Correcting the girl's totally wrong idea, the hero states he didn't stay out of pure desperation to save the beasts. Confused by the young guy's smile, the woman has no idea what the suspect's crazy logic is. Gripping his mystic light blade, he says he only stayed to test out the true power of his brand new weapon. Gripping the dagger's handle tightly, he gets into position, completely ready for battle. Flashing a slightly psycho smile, he decides to have some fun testing his weapon and his traps on them. Reading the item's status screen, he knows the dagger holds hidden powers way beyond just cutting. Holding the blade, he faces the fact that the weapon's true massive power is still a total mystery. Flashing a determined smile, he decides to test the real value of his rare treasure. Way too confident, the guys laugh, asking what he expects to do with a little pocket knife. Charging in like maniacs, one of the guys yells for him not to underestimate A-rank hunters. Seeing her squad's absolute stupidity, the swordswoman orders them to fall back immediately, but it's already too late. Making a super subtle hand gesture, the MC triggers his trap creation on the spot, and suddenly, purple circles pop up on the ground, catching the extras totally off guard as they charge. Taking a step forward, the young guy announces he's going to start with just a basic test. Tossing his magic dagger into the air, he yells for the blade to kick off the grand show. With the panic trap activated, the guy's strikes are deflected and they end up hitting each other. Totally shocked by the magic traps, the redhead realizes this villain is actually someone incredibly strong. And one of the Esters who accidentally sliced himself starts groaning from intense pain in his arm. Sprawled on the forest floor, the guys complain about a weird tingling and have no idea what just happened. But suddenly, one of the wounded guys notices some super sketchy smoke rising straight from his cut. Seeing the purple aura in the wound, the guy screams in terror that the cut is pumped full of lethal poison. Watching his mystic blade glow with the exact same purple energy that poisoned the men, the kid finally realizes the dagger has the power to inflict status damage on whoever it cuts. But since it's an ultra rare item, he's almost totally certain it isn't just a simple basic poison. Out of nowhere, he feels a massive presence closing in and freezes up instantly, completely confused. Flying right at him, Tsumugi blocks the young guy's strike using her own katana. With her eyes blazing with rage, she screams that she won't forgive any more injuries to her squad. Trying to rip the knife from the hero's grasp, the swordswoman attacks with incredibly strong, heavy strikes. Startled by the impact, the main guy watches his brand new weapon get sent flying super far away. Without losing his focus on the battle, he triggers his super handy trap creation once again. With the trap activated far away, the thrown blade starts glowing with a brilliant blue light. Overwhelmed by an intense glow, the item's handle gets wrapped in lines of magic energy. Using the puppet movement trap, the kid forces the knife to strike the redhead right in the back. Completely shocked by her mistake, she feels the poison taking over her entire body instantly. But the blade hits her again, and the woman realizes that this time the attack is pure ice. Flashing a smile, the hero confirms the item can swap its magic attribute whenever he wants. Holding the dagger that's now glowing blue, he realizes he's the proud owner of a completely broken weapon. Gripping her katana with both hands, the swordswoman channels all her magic straight into the blade. Full of sheer determination, the S-rank yells that the ice won't stop her from using her ultimate technique. Closing both eyes for a split second, she preps for the final decisive strike of the battle. Making her sword scabbard glow intensely, the woman finally unleashes all her magic. Unleashing multiple flashes of light, she fires off her famous secret sword, Dance of the Cutting Aura. Surprised by the barrage of magic projectiles, our MC realizes there's absolutely no way to dodge. Moving lightning fast, he uses his small dagger to perfectly parry one of the beams. At the end of the assault, the two end up clashing head-on in a straight-up sword duel. Shooting a highly focused look, the woman prepares to deliver the absolute final blow of the fight. Delivering a super heavy strike, she sends a massive wave of energy straight at the kid. Totally shocked by the brutal force, the young guy feels his dagger get blasted out of his hands. Spinning wildly in the air, the rare item flies way out of its owner's reach. Suddenly, a mysterious hand appears and snags the blade's handle right out of mid-air. Flashing a victorious smile, Tsumugi announces she grabbed the magic sword and that the weapon is hers now. Pointing her katana right at the hero's neck, she tells him he lost and needs to surrender peacefully. But out of nowhere, the dagger in her hand starts glowing, leaving the woman completely confused. Being nothing more than just another trap, the item instantly turns into a useless, totally worthless twig. Shocked by the literal tree branch, the swordswoman has no clue what just went down. Capitalizing on his enemy's slip-up, Tsukasa pops up right behind her, ready for the takedown. Delivering a solid blow straight to the redhead's back, the young guy makes her cough up a ton of blood. Apologizing for the beatdown, the kid reveals that the magic twig was just another bait tactic. Dropping a golden piece of advice, he tells her to stop closing her eyes right when she uses her best technique. Even as she collapses wounded, the S-rank swears the fight isn't over yet and desperately tries to get back up. Out of nowhere, a massive paralysis effect completely takes over the swordswoman's body, dropping her to her knees. Feeling intense muscle pain, the woman hunches over while the young guy tells her not to push it for nothing. Holding his yellow sword, he explains that the last hit inflicted massive paralysis damage to her entire body. Looking over at the fallen men, the young guy promises he isn't going to hurt anyone else and officially ends the fight. Getting super emotional, the redhead asks why a villain would show them so much totally unearned kindness. Stashing his weapon back in his inventory, he explains he never wanted to rob or hurt anyone there in the first place. With a totally calm look, he swears he won't do anything else, leaving the leader feeling super relieved. Helping the woman up from the dirt, Tsukasa begs her to stop calling him a bandit once and for all. Agreeing with the hero, she admits that if he were really a villain, everyone there would already be dead. Trying to apologize for the totally fake accusation, the woman gets cut off off by a massive earthquake. Startled, the two of them look around frantically trying to pinpoint where that intense rumbling is coming from. With a gigantic roar, the entire forest shakes in an incredibly violent way. Out of nowhere, a stone golem the size of an actual skyscraper spawns right in front of everyone. Totally taken aback by the beast, the MC stares at the stone giant, having absolutely zero clue what's going on. Staring down the bizarre creature, Tsumugi confirms that this huge thing can only be the area's main boss. Quickly checking her hunting sensor, the swordswoman verifies that the giant golem is indeed their target. Right then, one of the squad's extras goes into total panic seeing the boss's colossal size, but the kid quickly notices that the cowardly extra is actually the thief who slipped out of the vines. His red eyes glowing with pure rage, the giant monster raises its arm, totally ready to kill. Then the beast punches the forest floor with such brutal force that everything around them violently shakes. Caught in the blast, the thief is launched super far while screaming like a little girl. Absolutely terrified, the human garbage hits the dirt, begging anyone nearby to save him. Looking back in total panic, he spots a terrifying shadow closing in on him incredibly fast. Right behind the bandit, the main guy appears holding his rare blade, with pure bloodlust in his eyes. Pointing the weapon right in his face, the young guy demands to know if this trash woke the boss up on purpose. Flashing a cynical, totally villainous smile, the scumbag says he already warned him about the super strong monster. Spelling the truth, he reveals he woke the beast up just to use its absolute destruction as a distraction so he could escape. Running through the dense forest, the coward keeps bragging about his completely foolproof evil master plan. Justifying his insanity, he claims he didn't want to get caught by the association and figured the golem was the perfect cover. But he ends up confessing that his luck ran out, and the beast decided to chase him instead of Tsumugi. Furious at the sheer stupidity, the hero yells that the guy did all this knowing perfectly well the monster was a boss. Suddenly, our MC gets a massive jump scare, looking ahead and feeling an absolutely overwhelming presence. Right in his face, the golem glares at him with pure hate, ready to crush every single hunter there. Throwing a devastating punch, the boss forces the young guy to take a massive leap just to avoid getting completely flattened. Sizing up the critical situation, the redhead yells for her team to run, since everyone there is way too banged up. Turning his head in absolute panic, one of the guys yells back to the leader that things just got incredibly ugly. Staring down the cursed boss, the S-rank realizes the giant is now fully locked onto her wounded squad, quickly triggering his track creation. Tsukasa summons the cosmic basin that drops right onto the head of anyone passing by. Using the magic basin as a total distraction, the trap smacks the boss right on the head perfectly. Heavily taunting the furious beast, the young guy yells at the big stone head to focus entirely on him. Not understanding his totally suicidal move, Tsumugi watches as the monster completely ignores her team and locks onto the kid. Overflowing with pure killer rage, the giant golem glows bright red, totally prepping to destroy absolutely everything. Sprinting far away from the weak squad, the kid yells for the area boss to try and catch him. Thinking through his tactic, he knows he needs to drag this heavy fight to an empty, totally open space. Running at the speed of light, he drags the colossal boss all the way to an abandoned city at the edge of the forest. Next to a river in the city, a cute little treasure chest pops out of the water, totally grabbing attention. Warning her combat master, the cute little chest asks Lady Jean to keep her eyes wide open. Sitting on a huge rock, the White Knight hears the danger warning and stays on incredibly high alert. Thinking things are way too quiet, the girl comments on the sound of falling rocks coming from the horizon. But out of nowhere, she gets a massive jump scare seeing huge boulders raining down into the river right next to her. Looking up, the warrior spots her master and the giant boss falling straight toward them. With the massive impact hitting the ground, Mimi goes flying while the knight goes into absolute shock. Leaping across the rocks, Tsukasa preps his landing while the chest screams for her powerful master. Spotting Jean nearby, the kid yells her name, ordering both of them to gear up for a seriously ugly fight. Standing side by side, the two heroes strike a battle pose, completely ready to crush the cursed golem. Overflowing with confidence, the MC declares they're going to completely wreck yet another area boss together. Noticing the stone beast's killer glare locked right on her, Jean concludes that running just isn't an option anymore. Getting really worried, the young guy knows the beast's shell is way too tough for any basic attack to do damage. But out of nowhere, a yellow light streaks across the sky, and the kid turns around, completely stunned by the strike. Being the redhead's famous secret sword, dozens of slashing beams rain down right on top of the big monster, hitting the golem dead on with absolutely everything she's got. The S-rank's attack doesn't even seem to scratch the target. Landing firmly on the ground, the redhead hunter and her squad group up at the front of the battlefield. stating they managed to follow the trail of destruction. Tsumugi invites the kid to fight alongside them. Flashing a super awkward smile, the kid turns his head, staring at the stubborn crew that just won't run away. Thanking him for saving them once again, the leader says the time he bought was exactly what her team needed to heal up. Completely confused, the kid demands to know how she figured out his real name. Showing him the guild file, she says Tsukasa is totally famous for taking down a boss completely solo. Apologizing for her incredibly dumb accusation earlier, the swordswoman bows and gives her official introduction, starting a beautiful speech about their guaranteed victory working together. She ends up getting cut off by her own team. Pointing in pure shock at the golem, one of the guys yells that the creature's skin didn't take a single scratch. Adding to the warning, he screams that the S-Rank's ultimate attack just bounced off the stone and vanished like smoke. Turning to the group's strategist, Tsumugi asks if the genius has any idea how to punch through that defense. Thinking to herself, the leader figures the kid must have some miraculous, totally insane plan up his sleeve. Begging for his help, she declares that the entire squad is going to trust their lives to the kid's master plan. Shocked by the sheer weight of her words, the young guy questions the girl's sanity for risking so much on him. Thinking about her personality, he figures the woman suffers from some naive, totally blind hero syndrome. But focusing on the main problem, the kid realizes he actually has a squad now but still needs to come up with something brutal to take down the boss. And suddenly, a completely crazy idea crosses his mind, making the strategist's eyes light up. Turning to the extras, he asks if the crew has the guts to fight following his bizarre, totally insane orders. Flashing a smile packed with absolute blind trust, Tsumugi accepts the kid's leadership without a second thought. Soon after, the extras accept the orders too, yelling that it's all or nothing, now go big or die trying. Getting into position facing the colossal golem, RMC gives a signal that the absolute carnage is about to begin. Announcing his grand final plan, Tsukasa declares that everyone is going to help pull off the ultimate trap to kill the boss. And if you liked this, leave a like to support the channel and to get a part 2 for this video.
A giant stone monster spawns out of nowhere right in front of our MC. Spooked, he asks what the heck that is, noticing it's a colossal creature. She quickly figures it out, warning everyone this beast is definitely an area boss. Pulling out a device, her sensor confirms this is the exact enemy they were hunting, an illegal boss. Then our MC gets the picture, while some suit runs away in the background. He instantly recognizes the guy, calling him out as the rogue hunter who slipped away earlier. Furious, the stone colossus stands up tall, ready to strike, slamming a heavy punch into the ground with everything it has. The impact creates a massive shockwave, launching the screaming runaway high into the air. Crashing back down in the panic, the guy begs for help, but suddenly he gets a huge scare when a bright light flashes right behind him. Out of that glow steps our MC, demanding answers. He asks if this scumbag brought the boss here, and the coward shrieks when he feels a sword at his neck. With a cynical smirk, the rogue reminds them he already warned about some terrifying danger in the canyon. He confesses to waking up the boss, deciding to just let the beast wreak havoc freely. However, he really thought he had everything under control, explaining that even if he ran, they'd chase him anyway, so he just wanted to buy some time to escape. And that's where it gets crazy. He admits his math was a little off, making himself the target of the stone giant's rage. Getting annoyed, the MC accuses the guy of already knowing the area boss's identity. Right then, a massive shadow looms over them. The giant stone monster raises its arm, facing our guy head-on. Swinging down hard at the ground, the beast misses as he dodges with ease. Without missing a beat, Tsumugi tells everyone to fall back instantly since they can't fight in this condition. Panic hits the axe partner, agreeing that the situation looks completely doomed. Suddenly, he notices the boss is locking onto them now. But out of nowhere, our MC summons a trap, dropping a massive metal basin right on the boss's head to completely clown the beast. His whole plan was just grabbing the boss's attention, claiming right there that he's the opponent now. Confused, Tsumugi asks what the heck he's doing. Our guy takes off running, shouting for her to keep moving. Thinking fast, the MC realizes the injured crew needs time to pop some healing potions, so he decides to drag the freak away from the area. He quickly figures anywhere works as long as it gives him a better fighting spot, dashing straight into the forest. Meanwhile, down by the river, Mimi is getting a drink of water. Jean tells her to stay sharp and not drop her guard, because enemies could easily be lurking around. Finding the whole vibe weird, she was dead sure she heard a loud rock slide nearby just a minute ago. Out of nowhere, the cliff wall starts cracking, collapsing right on top of the duo. And no one saw that coming. The giant colossus bursts out of the wreckage, tearing through the mountain. Startled, Jean and Mimi flinch at the sudden rain of boulders falling on them. Then our MC appears right on top of the creature. Catching sight of them down there actually surprises him. He leaps off the boss, landing right in front of the girls. Taking charge, she tells them to gear up for a fight because they're taking down this area boss right now. The guy realizes the creature locked onto him, declaring there's no running away from this brawl anymore. Sweating a bit, the MC thinks they gotta find some way to deal with the enemy's cracked, super tough body. But suddenly a blinding light flares up behind him, stealing all his attention. A wildly overpowered attack called the Slashing Aura Sword Dance rips through the air toward the fight, hitting the boss dead on. The strike triggers a massive energy blast as the squad watches the impact up close. Right after, a boot stomps hard on the ground, revealing a surprise guest entering the zone. Tsumugi shows up with her squad, announcing they finally caught up and calls Nina Maya to team up. Relief washes over our MC, smiling since backup finally arrived. Expressing her thanks, the commander says his distraction gave her team the time they needed to recover. He just looks confused, asking how the heck she knows his name. Projecting his profile on a hologram, she asks if he's actually Nanomiya Tsukasa, the famous hunter rumored to spawn out of nowhere in solo area bosses. She apologizes for missing it earlier, officially introducing herself as Asaina Tsumugi, an S-rank hunter from the association. Confident they'll win with his help, she gets cut off by someone screaming for the boss to look at the monster. Freaking out, the ally warns everyone that the monster's defense is just way too cracked. He frustratingly points out that even after taking the leader's special attack, the creature is still completely unharmed. Tsumugi turns to our MC, asking if he has any plan to beat such a tough enemy, saying someone built different like him could easily whip up a strategy on the spot way better than theirs. They beg for his wisdom, letting him know they trust him fully and are betting their own lives on this brawl. Shocked by this, he thinks it's pure madness, since the commander barely even knows him. Watching her hold her ground, he wonders if she's just insanely reckless or way too kind, but he quickly refocuses, realizing that at least now they have enough manpower for the job. Brainstorming hard, he tries to figure out a way to crush this tanky beast that ignores attack skills. Suddenly, a memory pops into his head. The MC then asks if the squad is down to follow his exact orders. Smirking slightly, Tsumugi shows zero doubt in her new partner's words. The other hunters agree without missing a beat, admitting that if the boss is in, they're all riding this out together. He announces it's finally time to make a move. Charging a purple light in his hands, he rallies everyone to work together on this mission. With a laser-focused look, the swordswoman draws her weapon ready to help. Our guy kicks off the operation, telling the crew to brace for the enemy strike. Quickly turning to Jean, he tells her to head back alone using the same route they came from. One of the spear hunters yells out that the boss is charging in. Rushing forward in a rage, the Colossus brings its massive stone hand down to flatten the whole squad. Swiftly, our hero activates his track creation, and the punch slams right into his shield. Tsumugi's jaw drops watching the whole scene unfold, wondering if that's some kind of defensive shelter trap. From the back, an ally is just blown away by how tough the barrier is. Meanwhile, Jean dips away from the battlefield. The guy thinks her running off is weird and asks where she's going, but RMC assures them it's pure strategy. Explaining he sent her ahead, he tells the team they're gonna stick right behind her following that route. He adds that the mission is dragging the boss all the way to the local amusement park by acting as bait. Asking if that spot isn't on the complete opposite end of the zone, Tsumugi tries to figure out why they're kiting the target there. RMC reveals there's a trap waiting over there. Dead serious, he declares their end goal is firing off the catastrophe trap. A massive stomp from the boss violently interrupts them, so the MC yells for the squad to fall back, dealing chip damage on the way since there's no time to explain the whole plan. Taking the lead, the guys step up to grab the boss's aggro. Without hesitating, the trio groups up and jumps straight at the creature. The spearman and the axe partner push forward, blasting sparks and lightning at the stone monster. But the boss just glares right back at them, furious. Then another hunter leaps in, going all out with a flaming sword. He lets out a panicked gasp when the big guy swings a massive hand his way. Realizing the enemy's strike is way faster, the hunter screams that he's completely doomed. In a flash, RMC summons a magnetic trap built to force targets to move. And at the very last second, the hunter gets yanked backwards super hard by a giant magnet. The creature's hand crushes the ground, creating a huge explosion as the ally barely escapes, screaming in shock. Telling everyone not to worry about dodging, the MC promises to protect them all and orders the crew to just focus on hitting the boss. Mid-sprint, Tsumugi figures out he uses traps for dodging and thinks our guy's fighting style is wild. Right after she plants her foot hard into the ground, stopping dead in her tracks. She draws her weapon ready for combat, warning them she's going all out too. Laser-focused, Tsumugi preps her secret sword technique, firing off a super explosive attack that rips right through the air. The strike lands flush on the beast, causing a massive fiery blast, but the boss brushes off the damage, instantly grabbing a huge boulder, chucking it straight at Tsumugi. Amidst the chaos, RMC grabs her hand and pulls her in, warning they're about to take off. He quickly summons the kidnapping drone trap, which shows up to airlift the crew, grabbing onto it tight right after. The MC flies up attached to the drone, pulling Tsumugi by the arm to dodge the explosion, wrecking the ground. He says everything's solid and tells the leader to keep the area boss locked onto them non-stop. Wrapping up his thought, the hero reveals the plan will work flawlessly as long as Jean activates that alter mechanism. Far away, Jean reaches the destination and plants her feet firmly on the ground. Staring at the monument in front of her, she reports that she reached the target. She winds her sword back and summons the Great Destroyer. Then a giant golden beam explodes from the structure, tearing up the place with an intense glow. Back in the forest, the stone boss is plowing toward the crew like a freight train. Drenched in sweat, the spear hunter runs and frantically complains his stamina is bottoming out. Just as the boss's attack is about to clip him, Tsumugi spawns out of nowhere. RMC triggers spatial distortion, teleporting the commander and the boys way out of the strike zone. Pulling off the rescue flawlessly, he drops the hunters safely in a much better spot. He praises everyone for doing great, noting they're almost out of the woods, passing the job of holding the boss's aggro over to Mimi now. Quick on her feet, Mimi lights a special flare that spews purple smoke built to grab the beast's attention. The boss takes the bait completely, running with wide open arms trying to catch her. Flying up high, the MC spots the target and hypes up that the amusement park is right ahead. With his eyes on the Colossus, he tells the boss to just keep following that path. Brimming with confidence, he finishes by saying the spot is already waiting with its jaws wide open for the final strike. Jean just stares at the massive glowing structure. Over at the park, a loud noise starts closing in. Suddenly, the boss rolls in, instantly flattening an ice cream truck. The brutal impact actually makes the monster stumble. Meanwhile, Mimi screams in panic, trying to dodge the flying debris. Breaking down the unknown catastrophe trap, the mysterious system questions what exactly happens when it triggers. Without warning, several giant iron chains shoot up. Moving way too fast, the heavy metal wraps around the boss, locking him down. Trapped in the ambush, he roars in pure rage. With his eyes glowing red, he goes completely berserk. Refusing to yield to the chains, the boss still tries to stop Mimi out, but Jean manages to grab her and dodge right before it happens. Up on the drone, RMC tells her to keep Mimi safe. He figures he'll need to weaken the boss way more to make the trap work. The MC then triggers one of his traps capable of raining down fire. Taking a direct barrage, the monster gets hit by what looks like falling meteors. With Mimi in her arms, Jean dodges the master's swings that narrowly miss her. Covered in that inferno, the boss howls in pain, totally unable to escape his prison. He totally fails to resist the force of that strike, face-planting hard into the dirt. Weakened now, the chains manage to bind him even tighter, dragging the creature right across the floor. They forcefully pull him right under the trap. With zero escape routes left, he gets absolutely bodied. The insane weight crushes the Colossus, shattering him into tons of pieces from the sheer force. This impact sparks a massive energy explosion, leaving everyone wondering what the heck just happened. Floating down to meet the squad, RMC lands smoothly. He quickly explains that the rocks turn to dust under the attack's weight, confirming the zone is secure. Hyped up, the group cheers their victory since they successfully took down the boss. Tsumugi's eyes go wide in shock as she takes in the scene once the dust settles. Questioning what it all means, she points completely stunned at the massive loot pile dropped by the enemy. She picks up a chained book, guessing the items were inside the boss, which is why they scattered everywhere. One ally tries to verify if those are the raid spoils, while another celebrates, shouting they can grab as much treasure as they want. Letting out a happy little squeak, Mimi starts gobbling up the loot, making our MC smirk. But then he spots a weird glow on the floor, wondering what it is. He realizes it looks like a bracelet, but with a way too intense light. Flashing brightly, the item pulls a surprised gasp out of him. The system alerts him that this piece lets you see other people's stats. Shocked, the MC tries to process if he can actually see through his teammates now. Remembering that normal gear only measures your own power, he knows a skill like this shouldn't even exist. With Tsumugi standing right there, our guy thinks it's worth testing if he can really check people's levels. So, he raises his hand. Instantly, a blue aura wraps around it. The system screen quickly glows, announcing the analysis is 100% complete. Scanning the data, he notes that as expected of an S-rank hunter, her stats are high and balanced, but there's a catch. He then checks the commander's profile, noticing her mana is way too low and pegging it as a critical combat weakness. Making sense of it, he concludes, Tsumugi hid this flaw super well using her flashy techniques and pure sword mastery. Our guy feels that exposing an enemy's power like this is total cheating since this skill is way beyond a normal item's limits. Curious, he turns to Jean to confirm a hunch, and she quickly claims it's an ultra-rare hidden item. She explains these artifacts get scattered around depending on the zone, guessing this one was hidden deep inside the boss they just dropped. Getting the picture, our MC remembers the rogue hunter's panic, realizing those guys were betting the artifact was near the monster. As he watches the crew gather the loot, the strategist figures the invaders weren't too far off, and their guess was at least half right. Out of nowhere, the comms on Tsumugi's wrist start beeping, grabbing her attention. She immediately alerts the team about an incoming broadcast, and the hunters listen eagerly, thinking it's a direct message from HQ. Messing with the device, she explains the static cleared up right after the boss fell, hinting they might get some fresh intel. The screen then projects a furious guy's hologram, ordering the association members to listen up to an official declaration from the independent state afterbreak. With murder in his eyes, the dude screams at the top of his lungs, bragging that his crew wiped out all the deployed rescue units. Tension spikes for the MC and Jean hearing the stranger claim total victory since every hunter got annihilated. Instantly, panic sweeps through the nearby allies as the broadcast threatens that any new interference will just end in more bodies. Horrified by the message, Tsumugi realizes the broadcast isn't from the association at all, finding out the Western District rebels hijacked a signal. This makes the MC remember reading a computer file about that Western District, confirming the independent state name the enemy just dropped. Wearing a grim and worried look, our guy wonders to himself if these dudes were the real masterminds behind that other sketchy broadcast from before. He spots the chaos, realizing the war between the Hunter Association and the rebels is in full swing, suddenly spiraling into panic about Nana, needing to know right away if his sister is safe in all this mess. On the hologram, the angry guy yells threats about dropping the hammer of justice on anyone trying to invade, declaring this is the absolute will of the after-break independent state. Spooked by the message, the allied hunters get totally confused trying to process the enemy's words, spiraling into a panic over the chaotic broadcast. Stressing out, Tsumugi explains someone took control of the Western District to declare its independence, warning she doesn't have all the details yet. This is where it gets good, she concludes. This declaration means the scout unit sent there got completely massacred in a brutal strike, meaning things look awful. Turning around to ask our MC for some input, she jumps when she realizes he's already gone. Stunned by his vanishing act, the other hunters wonder when he dipped, noticing his allied monsters bounced with him too. Tsumugi thinks about how surprising the kid really is, wondering why he took off in such a massive rush. Far away at the Awaya district border, the sprint toward the target is still going strong. Without wasting a single second, our guy dashes across the water at top speed, shattering the quiet vibe. Picking up the pace with his helpers, he warns there's no time to lose, and he needs to hit the Western District ASAP. Locked onto the goal, the MC declares he has to rescue Shiori right now before this whole rebellion mess spreads any further. Stopping at the cliff's edge, he spots the metropolis down below, hyping up that they finally found their destination. His confidence spikes as he stares at the giant city's entrance, dead sure that Shiori is hiding out there too. But before pushing forward, he tells Jean and Mimi he needs to sort out their situation first. He knows sneaking into an enemy base alongside beasts is just impossible, so he plans to find a way to move around under the radar. To fix the issue, our MC focuses his energy, instantly activating his trap creation power. Once the command drops, a massive coffin plummets down, smashing the ground with a heavy thud. Caught totally off guard, Jean goes wide-eyed, impressed by the giant contraption dropping right in front of her. The system reveals the phantom coffin works as a flawless vessel built to seal the leader's monster partners. Then the heavy lid starts sliding open to make some room. Pointing at the giant box, our MC apologizes to both of them and asks if they can hop in real quick. He quickly explains the trap acts as a shelter for the duo, promising he can summon them whenever he needs through the system. Warning on the space inside isn't super comfy, he gets cut off by Jean saying they don't care as long as it helps the Great Master. With a smile on her face, she firmly states she'd follow our guy anywhere without a second thought. Seeing this, the toothy chest joins the hype, letting out a super excited squeak to confirm its loyalty too. Once inside that coffin, Jean asks the MC to call the squad whenever things get rough, while the mascot happily screeches in agreement. The lid slams shut, instantly locking the magic seal. And just like that, the coffin sinks right into the ground, Hyper-focused, the MC figures the plan is solid and decides it's high time to get moving. Without losing his way, he heads straight for the Western District's center, aiming to quickly find the city where Shiori is locked up. Soon enough, the guy arrives amidst the wrecked streets and stares down a mountain of rubble. Finding a bunch of victims on the floor, he wonders if this is the association unit that got wiped right at the zone's entrance. With a heavy look, he checks out the bloodbath and deduces the rescue squad got butchered without even a chance to fight back. Suddenly, a robot pulls up right behind our MC and lets out a mechanical growl. The machine holds one of the bodies and raises its blade. Taking in the scene, the MC thinks they call themselves an independent nation, but didn't even bother clearing the dungeon. He remembers reading a report saying a local boss is still alive, finding it super weird that these guys picked a fight with HQ like this. So he's pretty curious about this whole beef. Right then, the robot clocks our MC's presence and violently spins around, advancing in a super threatening way. Since he got spotted, our guy gets ready to strike. Prepping the attack, he hears someone yelling for him to hold up. A mystery guy tells the MC to rethink that reckless attack since the monster is part of the city's defense force, warning that using any skill here counts as a hostile move. Confused by the whole thing, our MC mentally questions how a beast like that is part of the local security. So he asks who the heck that guy is. The stranger just cuts the chat short, saying explanations can wait and telling him to follow along. He quickly reveals he got direct orders to secure a VIP pass for our MC, claiming that's exactly what he was told to do. Walking through the area, the duo passes by a few people, and past those robots too. Checking out the scenery, the MC spots the freaks roaming freely everywhere and goes into shock, trying to figure out what kind of madness is happening here. As he scopes out a market, he thinks it almost looks like the beasts are chilling with the people, but then changes his mind, figuring the beasts are actually ruling the humans. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls out the MC's name, telling him that theory is kinda flawed and promising the monsters aren't the ones running the zone. Caught off guard, our guy stares at the figure in front of him, asking who he is and how he knows his name. Taking firm steps forward, he keeps up the speech, revealing the true ruler pulling the strings of this whole independent state is standing right there. The leader's silhouette stands out under the bright light lighting up the path. He finishes his sentence by announcing that, in other words, he's the big king around here. Flashing a confident smirk, he introduces himself as Dojima Gin, hoping the two of them will get along great from now on. Our MC just stares him down, recognizing his face from that broadcast earlier. Jin grins and tells the famous Tsukasa to wipe that gloomy look off his face, saying even the association deserters heard the rumors about him. Keeping the chat going, he claims the fame belongs to the solo hunter who dropped an area boss flawlessly, swearing that's what the streets are saying. Deep in thought, our MC concludes this group is really made of ex-guild members, but then Gin mentions he also heard a lot about the kid from a specific person. Then the hooded guy pulls off his disguise with a laugh. Mind blown by the reveal, our guy goes wide-eyed and tries to blurt out the figure's name right away. Sporting a cynical smile, the guy waves his hand while our hero screams Asanuma's name, unable to believe his eyes. Annoyed, the MC asks what this rat is doing here since he was dead sure he wiped him out back in the Central District. Never dropping his pose, Asanuma confesses life got pretty rough since that day, saying the base security caught him scavenging in the middle of all the chaos. He explains the guards started hunting him ruthlessly, leaving him no choice but to dip and run for his life so he wouldn't get bagged, revealing that before he even processed the mess, it had turned into a massive manhunt spanning multiple districts across the whole region. So he wraps up the story saying at the end of that massive escape, the place he ended up crashing was exactly here in this taken over city. Taking over the conversation, Gin confirms it all and declares this is the exact guild territory he runs with an iron fist. He points at his own crew, saying the runaway buddy wasn't the only one who turned his back on the association, claiming the zone is packed with allies sharing the exact same pain from before. Stepping right up to our MC, the traitor chuckles and mentions the whole squad decided to live freely in that new broken world, forming a lawless misfit group. The MC cuts the chat and bluntly asks Jin if these buddies of his are just a bunch of hunters looking to stir up trouble. He just laughs, telling the MC to be fully sure these people aren't the only trump cards he's hiding up his sleeve. Suddenly, he looks back and barks a direct order at the security gone, commanding the machine to slice down whoever is right beside it. Without hesitating, the robot turns to the other one standing nearby. Trapped with no way to back up, he tries to block on pure reflex. Landing a heavy blow, the murder machine swings its scythe down hard to slice him up. And just like that, the chopped robot's head goes flying, hitting the dirt hard. Gin proudly claims those monsters are completely under his control and execute any order without second guessing. Gin raises a hand, glowing with magic. Revealing his power is Spectre Control, which brainwashes beasts to forge his very own army. Tense from the reveal, our MC notices this skill of manipulating beasts freely is super similar to his own trap domination. But looking closely at the battalion, he figures the targets this guy controls are just basic pawns with nothing special about them. He quickly compares their forces, thinking the only ones he can command are his weird partners. All of a sudden, a little girl runs by and bumps right into one of the robots. The big tin can turns its head, staring down the kid, who completely freezes up, terrified of the creature. Panicking, the kid's mom rushes over, hugging her daughter, kneeling on the floor and begging for forgiveness. After the scare, they get out of there, with the woman scolding the girl to be way more careful walking the streets. Watching the whole scene, Jin tells our guy not to sweat it, explaining that even though they look scary, they're actually there to protect powerless citizens. Proudly showing off his squad's firepower, he brags that the people's safety is guaranteed against outside thugs, planning to expand the Legion's reach even more. Full of ambition, Jin declares he isn't stopping at the Western District, warning he'll send his group across the whole world to forge a unified nation linking every zone. Spreading his arms, the madman yells excitedly that everything starts right on this very ground, kicking off the reign of an independent state ruled solely by him. Creeped out by the sheer size of his delusion, our MC realizes this dude is dead serious about unifying the whole world. Then cutting through the heavy vibe, Gen grabs his attention and tells him to steer back to the main point of this chat. With a cocky smirk, he mentions having a few questions to ask, but says he'll take the MC on a nice tour of the place first. Strolling through the ruins, Jean asks if the base isn't totally different from the reality out there, and our MC awkwardly agrees. But suddenly, right as a soldier shows up, calling the master to handle some urgent business. Tired of the chatter, our guy looks around and mutters he just dove headfirst into a massive hornet's nest since there's zero sign of Shiori anywhere. Thinking it over, he reads the room, noticing things could pop off and turn into a huge brawl at any second, so he decides to scan the enemy's strength just in case trouble hits. Right away, he uses his bracelet. Checking out the report, our boy thinks about the kind of guy who dreams of being the king of the world, getting super curious to see how cracked his stats really are. On the glowing panel, the numbers read 240 stamina, 155 mana, 162 destructive power, 190 flexibility, 245 raw strength, and 230 intelligence total. The MC thinks the numbers are pretty mid for the title, this guy claims, concluding the dude is at best just an A-rank hunter. He backs up the thought that for a regular guild master these stats would be decent enough, but for a guy dreaming of world domination, it's a whole different story. Cutting off his thoughts, Jin gets his attention back, saying it's time for the main event and telling the MC to listen closely. He then invites our guy to build a new world alongside him, asking if the kid wants to become the newest member of their independent state squad. Staring at the offer, the MC throws a nasty glare, showing he isn't buying this dude's idea at all, so he rejects the invite right on the spot without a second thought. With the coldest look possible, the MC wraps up his answer, swearing the world this madman is trying to build is nothing but pure hell. Keeping the smile on his face, Gen gets the message, reminding him he already warned there wouldn't be a second chance, and that was his final offer. He quickly triggers a spell that shoots out multiple chains. Caught totally off guard, the MC feels the irons locking down his entire body. Now tied up to his neck, he breaks down the attack and instantly realizes this spell is a cursed item meant to fully seal a target's skills in a flash. Gin actually sighs, saying it's a waste killing someone with the MC's talent, but declares that if he can't get behind his ideals, there's no other choice but to finish him off. He points a finger right at our guy's face and condemns him to death, ordering his goons to drag him straight to the execution site. Escorted by the guards, our MC walks lock and chains right beside the king through the wrecked city. Lost in thought, he admits he messed up big time, never expecting these lunatics to have an item that could actually seal his magic. Glancing over at Jen, the MC remembers the guy saying he really valued his talent, only to realize the reality was way different. Pissed off, our guy notes that the second he rejected the invite, he got hit with a death sentence, concluding this dude is a massive tyrant. Right then, Asanuma lets out a mocking chuckle, telling the MC straight to his face that he made the worst choice of his life. Keeping up the trash talk, he claims if the MC joined the crew, he'd already be riding high on success with a shot at becoming a minister of the new nation. With his back turned, he confirms that mistake was entirely his own fault. But never dropping his guard, the MC claps back, saying the screw-up wasn't refusing the alliance at all. He quickly finishes his sentence, flatly stating the real blunder was getting involved with trash like them in the first place. Suddenly, he winds up to kick a little can, and the can goes flying fast. The object nails a glowing magic circle on the wall dead center. Freaking out at the bright flash, one of the guards panics and screams that it's a trap. In a blink, the blue spell flares up on the wall, showing the trick went off perfectly. Then a massive fire tornado spawns out of nowhere, swallowing everything in its path and sweeping the whole street. Desperate, the guards bolt, trying to get away. Amidst all the chaos, our MC triggers a gadget he had stashed right on his waist. The guy sarcastically apologizes for the mess, explaining he just used the defense that was already there and warning them this is exactly how he fights. He then reveals he ran a full sweep before even stepping into the base, bragging he already mapped out every single trap in the place. With the plan working flawlessly, the heavy chains shatter into a million pieces. His arms finally free, the MC tosses the chains to the ground and seriously announces he needs to find Shiori no matter what. But art behind him, someone's footsteps up. Asanuma pops up, calling him the rival, the trap master. Laughing like a psycho, he mocks the situation, saying a basic execution would be way too boring and declares this beef has to be settled in a real one-on-one. Sword in hand, he drops into an attack stance, screaming he isn't a loser anymore, and swearing he'll show off his upgraded skills right from the jump. Wasting no time, he blitzes forward, swinging his light blade, hyping up his brand new skill called Tornado. Agile as always, our guy already summons his sword. The two dash past each other in one clean strike, but only Asanuma takes the hit. Rocking a cocky smirk, he tells the MC not to celebrate early just because he landed a scratch. Our guy stares coldly at his rival, dropping reality and doubting if that was really just a scratch. Confused by the reaction, Asanuma lowers his sword, wondering what's going on. And suddenly he gets a massive scare, going wide-eyed as he stares at his own arm. Shocked, he watches his skin turning to stone right then and there, screaming in pure panic, asking if it's a petrification curse. Showing off the most cynical smile ever, the MC confirms it, explaining the whole thing is thanks to a super rare item that drops a debuff on anyone hit by the blade. Right and cue, he raises his hand and uses the bracelet, pulling up the magic menu right in front to check his stats. Locked onto the glowing screen, the panel opens instantly, revealing the poor dude's full sheet with 225 HP, 140 mana, 158 agility, 190 flexibility, 198 raw strength, and 185 intelligence. After checking Asanuma's levels, our MC drops truth on him, admitting the guy actually leveled up, but warning he's still nowhere near his own power, advising the fool to dodge fights he can't win so he doesn't die for nothing. Turning his back to him, the MC claims victory, stating the fight is officially over right there. Completely paralyzed and raging, Asanuma curses our guy out, telling him not to get cocky over that one win, and warning him not to forget this still isn't over. Out of nowhere, two robots pull up in front of him, blocking our MC's exit. He then realizes he just stirred up a massive mess. Tensed up, our guy admits he never expected an entire army of this level to mobilize so fast. Thinking on his feet, he decides he needs to regroup first and takes off running. He points at the wall, triggering trap creation to pop open a portal, escaping through it right after. Annoyed and confused, the chasing golems let out some weird growls, seeing the intruder vanish into thin air right in front of them. Nearby, Asanuma was already completely turned to stone. On the other side, our MC finds himself deep in the city's sewer tunnels. He gets hyped, mentioning this dirty little spot caught his eye the second he ran the sweep, telling himself that this is the hands-down most dangerous zone in the city. He reveals that the area is packed with special traps scattered everywhere just waiting for one slip-up. The MC then figures that to beat that annoying amount of monsters, he's got to use these traps. Activating his power, he says it's all or nothing now, summoning the local traps. Dead determined, our guy declares he's going to settle this once and for all.